In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water can culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
Attention UOP veterans. The Veterans Resource Center is your campus location for the education benefits you've earned. The VRC is located in the front of the main gym in the center of campus. The VRC has visits from VA health professionals, benefit experts, and employment specialists. So come on down to the VRC, where sodas and printing is free.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Pop.
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
The pulse of Pacific.
Are you a movie fanatic? Do you get excited grabbing that buttery popcorn and sweet candy all to enjoy a fantastic movie? Then come on by the Janet Leigh Theater where you can experience all this for little to no cost. That's right, Pacific students get in free faculty, staff, and alumni admission is only $3 while general admission is only $5. And to make things even better, concessions are just $1. Movie showings are every
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m., hosted by Tiger Radio's DJ, Mel D. Students who show up with a valid student ID receive a discount and are eligible to win dinner for two or other food and drinks from Baba's Mediterranean on the Miracle Mile.
The result is for the team. It's not for myself, so it's good for us to, win, grind it out. Even though we didn't play the prettiest of football, he gave me the opportunity to play Division I soccer, which is what I wanted to do my whole life. It's a goal of mine to reach my dream of playing professional, and he has made me the smartest footballer I can be.
That's what I want to see. Like, everyone wants to see that confidence.
Oh yeah, it is 209 Sports Time. That's right. Right here live in the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Studios. I am JD Jeff Dominic. Mr. Paul Meiskens, live and back in action with me. Paul, it feels like it's only been 48 hours because it essentially has only been 48 hours since the last time I saw you, but a little bit of excitement kind of going on right now, right?
Oh, it's that time of the year.
Absolutely.
You've got, sports winding down, other sports getting ready to get going, and, we just talked before we started, kind of a quiet week as far as home games, but lots still going on.
Absolutely. And so, there's that's why it's doing that. Cancel. Sorry, get a little maintenance going on here as we're doing everything. A little bit of this, a little of that. Anyways, we're going to talk soccer today. We're going to talk a little volleyball. Both teams right now, men's soccer, women's volleyball, they're hot right now. There's just no denying it. We'll talk a little bit of what's coming up this week. There may not be a lot of home games for Pacific. There are a lot of things going on for I forget. I'm also cameraman. I'm all the way over here. Got to get this all taken care of. There we go. Now we all see me. Hey, how's it going?
Oh yeah, everybody? we've got no Mr. DJ Mark.
No, no DJ JOD, Marky Leong, intern Ashley. I've already had requests on where is she right now. They want to see more of her.
And less of us. That's
less of us, exactly. I don't blame them there. But if you're not able, obviously the big match this week will be Pacific versus USC, and that's water polo. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. As much as I will regret to say that I will not be there to witness it, I will watch the stream and enjoy that. But oops, my bad. I'm kicking things all over the place here. I'm all over the place.
Once she gets here, we'll have to see if intern Ashley's going to go. She said she'd be thinking about going.
Yeah, it's a big game. It's a big match.
The place will be. I'm more excited for that on Sunday afternoon than any NFL football.
Oh, that's right. They do have NFL playing, don't they? It's going to be a pretty light week for NFL football too. But yeah, the two teams running hot right now. One of them gets a little lucky. The other one just grinds one out over the weekend. What else do I got for you? But the main thing really coming up, we have two home games. One of them will be happening tomorrow on Wednesday, and it'll be nice to see the women's basketball team finally return to the court. William Jessup coming into town. It's exhibition. It's an exhibition game, but a little bit of a change of pace, a little bit of fun coming up this week.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's about to go into November, and here comes basketball, and once basketball gets going, it's many months of it.
And that's the funny thing is, like, right now I can be excited for it, and I can say this, but I may speak for you to an extent, that it's kind of like baseball in a way that I'm excited that it's here. I'm glad that it's here. I can't wait to get going. And then it'll kind of get, basically because it becomes the main attraction, kind of gets force-fed to us a little bit. We got to kind of go, okay, I'm done with it. And this will probably happen about January.
Well, it might even come sooner because of all the holiday tournaments, both the men and women.
I'm ready for it.
Hosting all those games. You know what? It's going to be kind of around Thanksgiving time when all those basketball games are, and we're going to keep getting force-fed leftover turkey, and then by about weekend of December, we'll be like, all right, I've had enough turkey.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still not as bad. Even all that, unlike a pro baseball or a minor league baseball season that's 6 months long or just feels like 6 months long. It's still it's still. As much as the games are, at a certain point, it'll only be 2 games a week, and, it's not too bad. I think the part that we both like is we like when we have a variety of sports going on, and kind of
course,
in a month or so, basically, it'll be basketball, and that's it.
Yeah, it'll hit about middle of December, end of December, and I'll start hitting in January. I'm going, okay, football is over, considering, the NFL, and so now all I have left is basketball. And yeah, and truth be told, I like the college game more than any other sport or more than any other type of basketball, because I think that high school is just so unknown. Like if I was to like put basketball in its one entire entity, high school is so unknown because you're still learning they're just so young. Well, and then you go to if you go to jump over college and go to pros are just, I guess it's more beating your chest. It's all about me, things like that. College is, you have to play as a unit, otherwise you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the college atmosphere for basketball and for sports in general is more fun than a pro sports atmosphere as far as fan-wise and everything else. And I'll see more than a few high school games, but I think the atmosphere for some of those can be pretty fun. I think the lone difference there is, you talked about they're younger, they're kids. Yeah. They're barely teenagers, some of them.
They're learning how to play in a program.
Yeah, it's the basketball is way less polished. I mean, I've seen some players that are, I'll see some players that are big-time recruits, and I'll see some that are, will never play again after high school.
Maybe a JC level. Yeah, that's about it.
The caliber of basketball is not quite the same as Division I basketball, which is to be expected.
And no disrespect to JC level, I've seen a lot of great players out of the JC level. If you go to San Joaquin Delta College, head coach Gina Johnson for the women's team and head coach Rich Ressa for the men's team, they have a fabulous program.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about a lot of players at junior college level can play Division I, Division II basketball. Their
grades.
Yeah, their skill level is not, it's not that far below perhaps a Division I. I mean, it's clearly a step above your typical high school basketball game. So
yeah, and sometimes players will go to a JC level for multiple reasons. Let's make sure that that's out there right there, is that it could be grades. It could be because of family things. It could be
injuries.
An injury. I mean, you know her pretty well and so does Mark, from St. Mary's, Najee Murray, who's her dad is a great friend of the show and of ours. She had a torn ACL and easily could have been playing JC basketball, and she's D1 talent. And she just happened to get picked up by San Diego, and she's an Aztec now. And so, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they could or are at a JC level. She's an exception because obviously San Diego wanted her, and she's loving life down there. When it comes to the Division I level, and we get the chance to see head coach Bradley Davis take the seat, and it's. If you've ever talked to head coach Bradley Davis, I've had more respect for him over this last year or so. And I've covered the team for 4 years now, and I've had more respect because I've actually been able to just sit down and talk to the guy. I'm really excited at what he's going to bring to this table this week, or not only this week but for this season, because I think that this is now his time to really show that of why Pacific made the great move to moving him as the head coach and not looking for anybody else.
Well, something we've talked about with all sports is what, Bradley Davis was with the program as an assistant coach under Lynn Roberts. Moved into, and with any sport, we talk about the new coaches kind of getting their players in, so to speak. And while it's a little different with him because he was with the program, he had a part in the players that did come to Pacific.
Yeah, he's still a main recruiter, but he was the main recruiter when he was an assistant coach.
Yeah, so it's not like the players are completely new to him, so to speak. But he's starting to, there's a lot of young players on the team this season. You had, even Cindy Fadal, the Stockton native, she was
St. Mary's product.
Oh, yeah. Where's Mark when we need him, right?
I know, right?
But, she would have gotten some playing time. She had to deal with an injury, and, she's we talked about injuries sometimes kind of affect where you go, and I think, her being hurt might have contributed to her wanting to come here and be close to home, and I think she's going to be a great player, and some of these other freshmen, you would think we'll get some playing time. It'll be, I don't really know what to fully expect from the team this season. I think it'll be fun. They're both the men and the women are both projected, I believe, 7th in the West Coast Conference or 8th near the bottom. But I think both will be a little bit better than that. But I think people don't know totally what to expect. But I think it'll be a fun season.
And of course, a lot of people are kind of more looking to. So there's a select few. I shouldn't say a lot of people. There's a select few that are already looking into next season because of Valerie Higgins coming in and what she can provide to this team. I think people can kind of overlook, and we're going to talk about this later on in the day, of who may actually really turn some heads and or show an improvement of what they were last season. And I think that you nailed it on the head. I mean, they come in at 7th, and there are a lot of teams that I think that they can beat. And I think that if you overlook a team like Pacific and the women's team and doubt head coach Bradley Davis and what he can provide as a coach to put those players on the court, people may get blindsided by this season. This season especially.
Yeah, and you talk about Higgins, and the Higgins kind of makes me think of kind of like the men last season. Well, you're so excited for the season. You're looking at the players that aren't playing this season, like Kendall Small, who's now playing this season, and you're like, oh,
for the men's team,
that's going to be fun next year when those people are eligible.
And that's kind of where I was going with that.
But I think we kind of have higher expectations or hopes probably for the team, but you look 6 freshmen on the team, and I think it's kind of similar with the women's soccer, that we thought there would be an improvement,
and there was.
For the most part, people aren't going to project or expect. You're going to be projected to be near the bottom when over the last few years that's kind of where unfortunately the program's been. But there's some talented players here. It's a little bit more size, and it'll be interesting to see how everything comes together.
And back on Sydney Fadal, real quick, I do know that she's been practicing more, but she has been on the side a little bit, and not as a regression, but precautionary. So I'll be curious to see if she plays tomorrow against William Jessup. I kind of am leaning towards, if you put me on a percentage-wise, I would be 60-40 that she does not play. Just because I think there's still a little concern with her knee and getting her back into, not just into shape, I'm not going to say shape, but more game shape, because there's a big difference there. So I think that if we do see her, it'll be very limited. If we don't see her, I would not be surprised.
No, I mean, again, it's an exhibition, and the last thing you want to do is risk somebody.
Well, true.
Especially the fact that she's coming back from an injury. You're almost
a significant injury. I mean, it's not like she.
True. It's not. We're not talking a twisted ankle.
Yeah. She had significant surgery on a torn ACL.
Yeah. And so you're gonna be careful and slow her in gradually, and I think she'll be a key contributor at times to this team, and she provides some size, and the only listed center on the roster is her, so
but yet she's about the same height as a couple players that are the same height as her, but she's listed as a center.
Yeah, you have 2 players that are 6'2", and she's 6'1". I mean, unfortunately, unlike volleyball, the Pacific doesn't have any 6'3", 6'4s like BYU and Gonzaga and some of those. But that's why those 2 programs are the top of the West Coast conferences. A talented tall players are, they're not so easy to get. Those really good ones, they go elsewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I think that you get someone like Higgins, and if this program starts to change its change some of the, I wouldn't say change the culture, because that's not right, because Coach Bradley Davis has had a culture a certain way for a very long time. But if you start to catch some wins under you, I think this will really change some things for possible future recruits as well.
I mean, I think it kind of goes for any program or sport. It's a lot easier to sell kids to come to your school when you're winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could promise, hey, you come here, you're going to get to play 40 minutes a game. But if your team's not very good and you're losing every game, they might rather go elsewhere and play a few less minutes, but win. And so ultimately, winning makes things easier in so many aspects, especially recruiting.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see. Once again, it's coming up on Wednesday. Tip off at 7:00. William Jessup. A couple of changing of the guards. New coach. A couple of changes at the coaching side of things. Not the head coach, obviously, but there are a couple little ones too that we'll talk about in a little bit. When we come back, though, coming up next. Men's soccer over the weekend, wins in a thriller on Sunday. Which win was more impressive, and how disappointing would this weekend have been if they had lost either of these matches? So we'll talk about that. More to come right here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m., hosted by Tiger Radio's DJ, Mel D. Students who show up with a valid student ID receive a discount and are eligible to win dinner for two or other food and drinks from Baba's Mediterranean on the Miracle Mile.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there was a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there was a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
Are you a movie fanatic? Do you get excited grabbing that buttery popcorn and sweet candy all to enjoy a fantastic movie? Then come on by the Janet Lee Theater where you can experience all this for little to no cost. That's right, Pacific students get in free faculty, staff, and alumni admission is only $3 while general admission is only $5. And to make things even better, concessions are just $1. Movie showings are every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. For more
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water can culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Just hanging out like a bad smell. JD Jeff Dominic along with Mr. Paul Meiskens on a Halloween. Didn't do anything for Halloween. Just hide, right?
Pretty much. I think we both came as the scariest costumes we could think of ourselves. So.
Yeah, I came in and everyone asked, "Hey, take off your mask." I said, "It is."
Yeah, it's Halloween year round.
No, but thank you all very much for joining us. This is 209 Sports, right here on the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Channel and Broadcasting Studios. Also streaming live on 209 Sports and on YouTube channel and PacificTigerRadio.net and on the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Facebook page. What a week it's been. I mean, we only broadcast one time a week, and it's like basically we have to recap everything that happened within the last week, and it really is hard to do it some justice because there were a lot of good things that happened this weekend, and I think really we are giving injustice to both sports because we're going to start with men's soccer, but the reality is that if you're not careful, you're watching two teams right now, one of them peaking at the right time, the other one has been there the whole time. And when I talk about that, of course, I'm talking about women's volleyball, winners of 5 straight, and men's soccer, they've been there. They're there right now. They're now at 11 wins. Fortunately, after talking to Coach Jordan, we'll talk about we'll talk to him here in a second. That they're not satisfied with 11 or with 10 wins at that point, but now they have 11 wins, and the way they're doing it, I don't know, would it put you uneasy? Because are they overlooking teams that they should be? Because the reality is that LMU, they're rebuilding in a lot of ways, and Pacific kind of let them hang around on Sunday.
Yeah, and even before that, the game. Before the San Diego game against Santa Clara, I think those two are kind of like, and it's something we've sometimes talked about with other teams is kind of playing to your competition's level, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I think Friday night the game that you called, the 3-1 win over San Diego, that was a huge game. I think they came out, they looked fired up right away. They scored in the third, fourth minute.
Yeah, within 3 minutes. Yeah, the third minute they already scored, and then in the 7th minute they scored.
Yeah, I mean. That was a game where San Diego was near the top of the West Coast Conference standings. Them and Portland are, along with Pacific, probably those three are all kind of battling for the West Coast Conference title and NCAA tournament spots. And, they came out against one of their tougher opponents, and they looked great. They played like you would expect them to play.
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m.
Stop.
Hosted by Tiger Reed.
There we go. My bad.
That was some sort of read right there.
Unsuspecting right there.
But, that was a game that they came out and they couldn't play flat. If they did play flat, they would have lost to San Diego. And that was a good win. But, the Santa Clara game, the one before, the LMU on Sunday, they found ways to win, both of them in overtime. But those are games that you can't lose. Those would have been bad losses. They were behind two or three goals in that Santa Clara game.
They were behind the whole game. They never led that game in Santa Clara until obviously the very end.
Yeah, they came back, forced overtime. They won in overtime, and 102nd minute they finally scored against LMU on Sunday. But those are games that, I mean, no offense to Santa Clara or to LMU, but those are games that we should have won by a couple goals, and it shouldn't have been that close instead of just sweating away wins, and so.
Well, those are two programs that are on the uptick of rebuilding, and
well, I mean, you just look at standing wise. I mean,
they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they played good. But if you're a Tigers team that's expected to win the West Coast Conference, expected to make the NCAA tournament, and you have all these high expectations now, those are games that we talk about. A couple years ago, finding a way to win to be like, woo, we won. Well, who cares?
It don't matter how.
Now it's all right. We got lucky. Good teams sometimes find ways to win games that they didn't play great in, and Tigers have managed to do that. But that's why I'm sure after the wins in Santa Clara and LMU, they're happy they won, but they probably know we didn't play that great.
Will the NCAA allow 3 teams from the WCC to play?
Yeah. I mean,
like you look at San Diego, they've played great this year, and we'll get to some of the interviews here in a moment. But they've played great this season. Portland obviously has to be there, and of course now that Pacific has beaten San Diego, really kind of jumbles everything up the top. But does that should put 3 teams from the WCC into that discussion of playing in a tournament?
Yeah, it'll be close right now, which I think is interesting. This one RPI site that I look at for men's soccer, they actually have 3 teams from the West Coast Conference projected to make the tournament. You have Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
They have as the quote automatic bid, because the Pacific has the highest RPI of 26.
Right.
But you look at the West Coast Conference standings, and it's really going to be hard for Pacific to get past Portland. Like right now, Portland has the lead, and I mean, you know, if they'll
have to have a hiccup somewhere.
Yeah, if they take care of business, they're probably going to win the West Coast Conference. But you know, you have Pacific at 26, you have San Diego at 31, and then right on the cusp of the projections is Portland at 37, basically the next to last team to get into the conference tournament or to the NCAA tournament. And so, you know, if Portland wins the West Coast Conference, I think you're looking at 3 teams from the West Coast Conference making the NCAA tournament. But I mean, I think Pacific's, you know, as long as Pacific doesn't lose the rest of the season, I mean, ties might feel like losses, but I think as long as Pacific doesn't have a bad loss or 2, I think right now they're really looking pretty to get in, but obviously they'd like to win the West Coast Conference regular season.
Well, I mean, and the fact is that Pacific has had consecutive 10-win seasons. That's the biggest thing I think in my book right now. I mean, I think now the expectation is to be there, but to do it 2 straight years, something hard to do. You never know in college years. The only difference is that they primarily had a complete team from last year to this year. They only lost a couple of players. Obviously, the biggest one was Julio Cervantes, who graduated out. But to have 10 seasons, Coach Jordan felt that they're not done yet, and he basically talked about his team when it comes to after 10 wins.
We got a whole bunch left to do. We got 4 games left in the regular year. The guys want to win 14 in the regular season, so they've got targets that they're still trying to go after, and that's a positive for us. We're still chasing it right now because this doesn't put us in front. This puts us in a situation where we get to keep looking at chasing for the title. And so I'm really pleased about what we've done. I thought it was a good performance against a fabulous San Diego team tonight, but I was really pleased with the way we played.
Well, obviously that was after San Diego, and they, I mean, there was a lot going on in that game, and there was a lot going on in that game against LMU as well. So I better, you know, I don't want to go and sit there and say anything else. But they had 4 games left. Obviously, they have 3 now. St. Mary's, USF, both of them on the road, and then Gonzaga. They can be a 14-win team?
No.
Really?
Actually, can I include postseason? I don't think we finished the regular season with 14 wins.
No.
I've got some concern. I think
who stands out the most?
I think that game at USF next Wednesday is the one we don't win.
Do you say they lose or they draw?
Draw.
Okay.
I think.
So that would put them at 13 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses.
And it's simple for me to say that game for this reason. You have Portland's in first in the West Coast Conference with 10 points. Then Pacific is tied for second with 9 points with USF. So, you know, it would make sense that game at San Francisco next week is not going to be an easy one. You know, and so. You know, their other 2 games, St. Mary's. St. Mary's isn't going to be easy. You know, they almost lost at Santa Clara. I mean, you know, if the game was here, I wouldn't expect anything but.
But the advantage more 60-40 kind of.
Yeah, you know, outside of I think, it'd be great if we could get to that final game of the season, needing a win to win the West Coast Conference at home against Gonzaga, who's in the last place in the West Coast Conference, but 2 road games against 2 teams that were probably, better than, but the other 2 teams, San Francisco and St. Mary's aren't that bad. I mean, St. Mary's has won 5 games. They've tied 4 games this season. San Francisco's won 6 games this season. So, they're going to have to play, they're going to need to not play the lackluster-ish kind of game that we saw on Sunday if they want to get 2 wins coming up.
We need to see them play like they did when they went across country. I mean, that's the resilient kind of team that I look for. I mean, they went cross country. They were in West Virginia, and playing teams like that just, I wouldn't say they had no business winning, because they have business winning, but they played teams that were getting, I mean, at that point, they were playing teams that were getting votes and finding ways to win. You're in the West Coast Conference. I understand that the season is starting to drag down a little bit, but you're at the finish line now. And ramp up these next 3 games and let the chips fall where they may. We see you going to the playoffs, but we need to see you win these 3 in order to really solidify yourself as a perennial potential here.
Yeah, and even more so now, it kind of caught me by surprise looking at the West Coast Conference standings and seeing Portland had a loss, because when I looked,
they lost to San Diego.
No, they lost to San Francisco.
Oh, okay, my bad.
And I no offense to San Francisco, but when I was looking at it on Saturday, I saw Portland had 3 games left, and they're home against San Francisco, home against Gonzaga, and then at St. Mary's, and I was thinking, no, they're not going to lose any of those. Well, guess what? Sunday afternoon, Portland lost 3-1 at home against San Francisco. And so so that just shows you that game at San Francisco, even more not going to be easy. And that loss,
they're riding high.
Yeah, that loss by Portland to San Francisco completely opens up the Tigers' chances, because I figured Portland. I figured after our game Sunday, we win. We're at 9 points. Portland beats San Francisco. They'd be at 12, and you're still looking at a big hole, especially since the Tigers lost head-to-head to Portland. But now we're only 1 point back, and we have 1 game remaining. So really, we control the West Coast Conference now. It's like breaking news.
Yeah,
I'm stunned. I'm stunned to see that Portland lost. Portland's 1 point ahead, but they have 2 games left, while the Tigers have 3. So we went out. We control our own destiny now, which is great. You would think that will have them coming up, fired up, and if they play like they play against San Diego, we should be looking at another West Coast Conference title. If they play like they played against LMU, they might not come away with 2 wins on the road.
Their defense was pretty spot on, though. I mean, they got a couple lucky bounces. I mean, there was one that hit the crossbar by LMU, hits off the crossbar. There was a goal that Cam Riley felt that he scored, and he was upset about. It was kind of went back and forth. The reality is that they could have just as easily won that game 2-0 as they could have lost that game 2-0.
No,
against LMU.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you had the Tigers' best chances in that game probably were in the first 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. They had 2 great chances. Probably one of them you've really got to at least get on target and score. But I mean, LMU had plenty of chances. They had their leading scorer had a chance from the top of the box that he just put over the crossbar. They didn't have. Goldsmith didn't make a single save on the afternoon because all their shots were not on. I mean, their defense played great, which at times has been an issue. They've had a few games where they've, it's been shootouts.
Yeah.
And come postseason, you're not going to win soccer games 3-2 or 4-3. You're going to win 1 or 2
0, 2-0, 2-1.
So their defense was great to see on Sunday afternoon against LMU, and the offense finally found a way to convert and get the win, and the offense is there, and so it's good to see, even though it took them a long time to finally get the win. It's good to see the defense is starting to gel, so to speak, and hopefully that'll be good signs of things to come.
Coach Jordan after LMU.
I mean, I think it's always hard. I mean, this is the reason why soccer shouldn't be played, more than once a week, or for sure not more than once every 3 days. It's just hard emotionally, let alone physically. It's just hard emotionally to give so much, and then because you're physically tired, to emotionally try to have a sharpness and an edge to it. And I mean, so I'm extremely proud of the guys and the work they did on that front. It's hard to get back up for the next game when physically you're depleted, and emotionally that's a taxer.
He has a point there. They play within less than 40 hours of each other, but the thing is that LMU had the same thing. I mean, it's not like they're not. LMU didn't have a week off, and Pacific had to play 2 games in a row. Both of them played that Friday night. Both of them played that Sunday at 3 o'clock, obviously. But I think he kind of throws a point out there that, it would be nicer if we could play every 5 days or every 4 or 5 days. It is taxing, and we saw Bob Honendijk, who has been a big role. He didn't play on Sunday because he got hurt, and I was talking a little bit afterwards. And if this was a Monday thing, the chances of him playing might have been there. It was just because it was. I mean, you can't do anything within a 48-hour span after getting dinged up. Within a 40-hour span, after getting dinged up, and expect to play. You twist an ankle, you're done. I mean, I twist an ankle, I'm done for a week. Seriously, he twists an ankle, or in this case, he didn't twist an ankle. He got cleated, is what happened, and basically he got cleated, twisted the ankle, and basically it was swollen. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and because I happened to see him walk by after it happened, but he could have potentially played Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. Where if you play Tuesday and then play Saturday, this could be or play. Yeah, Tuesday maybe, but the reality is that maybe we have a little bit better opportunities here to see what teams can do at full strength.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the same for both sides.
True.
And sure, it'd be nice to play once a week, kind of like the NFL. But you know what? That's just not the way it works. And so you've got to, it is hard to sometimes get up for that second game, and literally, like you said, less than 2 days later, but you've got to find a way, and it's nice, the kind of the 3 games left, they have no games all week until just the 1 game on Saturday at St. Mary's. So
and then basically this is what I was kind of talking about. They'll play Wednesday, and then they'll have an extra couple of days, and they'll play Saturday following that.
Yeah, and after just seeing the results of San Francisco winning against Portland, they should have no problems getting up for that game on Wednesday. If they do, there's something wrong with them, because that game, Saturday at noon against St. Mary's, I think it's going to be a double hitter with the women also playing afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to come out, take care of, they can't come out on Saturday against St. Mary's and be lackluster and not get the full 3 points. They need the full 3 points there. Then you go worst case tie at San Francisco, and then you win senior day against Gonzaga, and at worst you're looking at tied for first in the West Coast Conference.
Yeah, because it makes it interesting, because that's right, San Diego and Portland, they tied, but San Diego loses to Pacific and Portland's lost to USF. I almost think that would there really essentially be a tie? I mean, would it, or would?
Well, I mean, you look at Pacific and San Francisco right now. Mm-hmm. They're both 3-1-0 with 3 games left. So
yeah, okay.
I'm not sure who's USF's other 2 games are, but say Pacific wins at St. Mary's, and then we tie San Francisco, and then we win Gonzaga. Well, if USF also wins their other 2 games, then you're looking at Pacific and USF tied for first. So I mean, you've got 4. I mean, even behind that, you've got Portland 10 points, Pacific and San Francisco 9, San Diego 8, and St. Mary's and Santa Clara 7. So I mean, a couple wins for one team and everybody else ties, and you could. I mean, theoretically, you could go from tied for 6th right now, or tied for 5th, and still have a chance to win the West Coast Conference. I mean, you just need to go out. You need to get at least a point, if not all 3. The next 3 games.
So we're going to kind of recap that here, recap it, I should say, in a little bit. But for now, coming up, women's volleyball, now winners of 5 straight. Are they peaking at the right time? I noticed I spelled peaking wrong on this one. But can they go on the road, win against the 2 toughest teams in the West Coast Conference? Not only that, in the NCAA as well. We'll discuss it right here, 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel.
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m., hosted by Tiger Radio's DJ Mel D. Students who show up with a valid student ID receive a discount and are eligible to win dinner for two or other food and drinks from Baba's Mediterranean on the Miracle Mile.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the live release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's rescues and shelters. The SPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there is a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there is a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
You know, at this rate, I might try and find some Insane Clown Posse. I mean, if we're going to get this into Halloween and get really grungy and all this other good stuff, I mean, Korn is fantastic group. But, I mean, this is about fitting, right? Get a little hardcore and on a Halloween Eve or Halloween day.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the fitting for today, although I don't need the music to get excited about volleyball and field hockey, which are coming up. So I'm ready. Let me off my leash.
Pan off on the field hockey. Pan off.
Oh, don't.
I said pan off.
I know.
I said good day.
Next segment.
Well, we're going to move that actually to 2:15. The 2:15 segment, just so you're aware, because we got basketball to talk about here in a minute, and just so we'll kind of move over to volleyball here right now, and then we'll just let me handle my business. This is my spot, right?
Hey, I'm ready to go. There are certain sports that you don't have to. I'm not hard to be poked to get going.
Right. Well, let's move back to volleyball, and there was. Look, before they came in, they were winning. They've won 3 straight. Volleyball, University of Pacific Volleyball, doing great things. The way that they've been playing look like the team that we could have expected at the beginning of the season. And maybe if things were panned out right, we wouldn't be talking about a team that was staying around 500. We could be talking about a team that was at least 4 or 5 or 6 games above 500 potentially. I don't know if they would have gone over some of the ranked schools, but there was an opportunity there that what we're seeing now, albeit that they're still running a system that they weren't initially in the season, we're starting to see a team that really has the potential of a lot of firepower from different angles.
Yeah, I think, last season we were 500 on the season, 500 in West Coast Conference play. I think we both kind of were hoping a few more wins, a couple games over 500 in both. And, they wanted to run a 5-1 at the start of the season with Describer as the main setter, and that's what they did the first couple of games, and then she got hurt. And so it forced Shelton into the server role, which kind of changed things around. And then, once Describer's came back, she's still not fully healthy, so they're running the 6-2,
and she's not going to be fully back this season.
No, it's going to be till next season, but so
potential of surgery, things like that.
Greg said, he said we're a better team when we were running the 5-1, but right now they're starting to get, the 6-2 starting to click, so to speak, and they're playing great volleyball. I mean, they hadn't won more than 2 games in a row until earlier this month. They came home and they lost to San Diego and BYU, and that at that point it had been 4 straight losses, and it's like, what's going to be the rest of the season? But then they went on the road where they've struggled at times, and they won 3 straight on the road. And I mean, while they weren't against the BYUs or San Diegos, which are coming up this week, any road win for a team, especially as a young team like the Tigers are, is good. And they went at St. Mary's and Santa Clara and won in 4 sets. They then they beat up on San Francisco, which San Francisco,
which should have happened. I think
it's one of those games where that's a game you no matter the team, you've got to. San Francisco is not very good. They've struggled big time. They think going into that match they had lost like 9 sets in a row, but they went in, they took care of business, and that's what you want to see. You want to see the killer instinct, so to speak, where so what that we're playing a team that's not been playing well. Let's go in quickly, take care of business, and get done with it. kind of, and then they came home and kind of opposite of, the LMU and Pepperdine, they got swept at LMU earlier this season. They lost in 4 to Pepperdine at Pepperdine, and so they completely turned that around, sweeping LMU, winning against Pepperdine in 4 sets. I mean, you mentioned 5 straight wins. They're now sole possession of 4th place in the West Coast Conference and working their way up. And, it's good to see. You're seeing a lot of players step up. And, there's been a few games where it's been Emily Baptista in the one game against Pepperdine was kind of the Baptista show. Although even when she's putting up career high numbers in digs and kills, there are still other players having big contributions as well, which is good to see. We talk about when you can have the team be balanced, it just makes you that much more difficult to beat. And right now, I think they're finding their in sync, so to speak, and they're playing great volleyball right now.
Coach, what's been impressive during this winning streak?
I think these girls choose, we hit right before, we had that stretch after the San Diego BYU, we went on the road and LMU handed us our rear end at their place, and we just kind of said, okay, girls, this hasn't changed anything. Now we see where we need to get better. I mean, since day one we came in here and the adversity we've had with injuries and sickness and different things that certain girls haven't played, but they bought into the whole process.
How about this recent offense?
This is what I'm talking about. You talk about mental fortitude. Here's a team where we went into the season and said we're a 5-1, which is on this side of the spectrum, and this is a system we're going to run. Then, due to an unknown injury, we didn't expect. All of a sudden, in the middle of the tournament, we're told, oh boy, in preseason, guess what, Andy? We're running 1 with you this weekend, but then we need an arm, and guess what, team? I need to throw this at you. I know I've said this is your role, and this is your role, and this is your role. We got to change those roles. Now I need you to buy in. How are we going to do it? We need this, and we went into a 6-2. And the first time we ever ran a 6-2 was the match before Cal. We had a practice with it, and it's been that process. Okay, keep focusing. Okay, because we've had a lot of ups and downs, but you can see the past 2.5 weeks or 4 matches here, the girls are starting to get it. They're buying in to each other, which is the most important thing. What do we got to do to be successful? That's 100% them. We can say all we want. Hey, this is how we can do it and draw it up, but if they don't buy in and want to do it, that was 100% them.
Yeah. So. It was 100% them, Coach. I was whenever they switch sides, I usually get really close to the team just because I want it the best angles I can whenever I'm doing camera work. And so he basically didn't have to say a lot. In fact, Katrin Gotterba, the libero, she was the one that was doing most of it. Especially against LMU, where she was like, "Let's put this one away."
Yeah, it's funny.
And Coach just sat back and watched.
Yeah, it's interesting during matches sometimes when, more so like the first and third sets when they're
on your side, yeah.
Right next to me.
Yeah.
Coach Gibbons doesn't really say a whole lot during matches except for during timeouts. You got the assistant coach Jim Polster and some of the others kind of more vocal during the match. But we talk about they're a young squad. A lot of their players are underclassmen. You've got Baptista, Fleming, sophomores, DeScriver and Lines are the 2 freshmen, but they've got the senior leaders out there on the court, and it was really a balanced effort against LMU in that first one. They hit 340. And
they hit 500 in first set and 400 in third set.
Yeah, they cooled off a little bit. But it was great because when they played LMU at LMU and got swept, they hit. It might have been their worst.
One of the games they hit negative, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they hit just barely positive, but
I know Pepperdine was negative. One of those matches was a negative. They had a negative set.
Baptista had only 6 kills on the night against LMU, and she had a much better. Butter.
Easy better. For you to say.
Yeah, or not. But Baptista hit 545 with 14 kills. But the whole team. You had Lines added 10, Shelton 8, and she's kind of been a triple-double machine as of late. It's just, it's you're not quite sure what to, you expect Baptista or Fleming to be leading the way, so to speak, on a nightly basis. But they're more than just a 1 or 2 player team. They can get kills throughout, and
they've got potentially 4 players that can kill on any given night. With KJ, Caitlin Lyons, Andy, you put in Baptista, of course, and Ashlyn Fleming. Those four can really they can attack in any direction, really. And when those four players are on, that's a scary team.
Yeah, and you mentioned those four. I mean, Fleming in that LMU game hit just 150, which for her is like that's
surprising.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, then you've got Shelton with 8 kills, Lyons with 10, and Baptista with 14. And when you're getting contributions like that, I mean, it makes you harder to beat. You don't want to have to count on somebody like Baptista to get 25 kills and carry the whole offense, which she can. She did against Pepperdine. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if Emily Baptista didn't have a great game against Pepperdine, the Tigers don't win in 4. They probably lose. I mean,
she had 7 kills in the first set alone.
It was actually 9.
9. Sorry, that's what I meant.
But I mean, she carried that offense at times in that game against Pepperdine. I mean,
she scored on 3 straight kills.
Yeah, I mean, she but
twice actually. We've talked
about before. She had 57 swings. I mean, but she was putting them down. I mean,
that's the big thing.
Yeah,
she hit what 3 something?
She hit 316. The team as a whole only hit 176. The team was out hit by Pepperdine 185 to 176.
A lot of that came in the second set, though. I mean, I really say that second set, Pepperdine really was just nasty.
Talk about a roller. I mean, they won this first set 25-22, and then they lose set 2 25-14, and I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah,
and then
they win the final set 25-15.
Yeah, it was a weird roller coaster of a game. But I mean, Baptista tied her career high with 25 kills, set a career high with 17 digs, and you had 4 players that had double-digit digs that day. I mean, the defense was great. You had Shelton had 11 digs. You had Garderba with 23, or not Lyons, but LeBass with 11, and DeScriver even with 9 digs. So I mean, they have their defense at times is really good, not just blocking, but digging balls up. And, I think the defense really shined at times in that win over Pepperdine.
We'll come back to this one as well, but coming up next, with women's basketball only roughly about 27 hours away, we mentioned what we are looking for, but who will need to step up, and apparently I can't type there because I said step up, or have a bigger role this season if the Tigers will have any success. That plus much more right here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel, and on the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Facebook page.
She's 16 years old, but she looks like she's 25, wearing a tight dress she'll rip off in a shady motel room. She thought this was the life she wanted. She got the money, the clothes, the attention from her pimp, but she also can't imagine living without prostitution. She doesn't think she's a victim. She thinks she's in control, but she can't leave. When she's no longer the sexy little girl they want, she may only see one way out. This girl lived here in Stockton. She's one of thousands of girls in the city who has been sex trafficked but doesn't see herself as a victim. Call the local Stockton Human Trafficking Hotline to report any tips at 209-948-1911. If you see anything, say something. You will be saving a life. And if you are this girl, there is hope. Call 209-948-1911. You are worth so much more.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water can culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Eric Easy E. Wright, Urban Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore it. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPCSSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your first language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPCSSA right now. 我们期待你的加入。
You're listening to Tiger Radio. We're the pulse of Pacific.
Yeah, I think that's just where we're doing today. I think everything I've played so far has just been completely, absolutely, let's rock out before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Let me hit this little button right here.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
That's right, that's a little bit better. Thank you all very much for joining us. JD, Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Meiskens, hanging out for a what is it, Tuesday Halloween, our Halloween show.
We are the ultimate trick.
No treat. No treat.
That's true.
Thank you all for joining us here. Basketball, a little less than 27 hours away. University of Pacific women's basketball in the house finally. It's crazy where the season or the year kind of goes when you start thinking about it. It feels like it was just the other day, when we were talking to Coach Bradley Davis and just saying, and he was talking about just the season in general last season and that he was hoping for more wins this season. And now all of a sudden we're ready to tip off one more time.
You know what also I think is part of it is, I also like to mention I can now hear myself, which is nice. There you go. But I think the fact that it doesn't feel, I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like it's about to be November because it's been such a warm, dry winter, really. We haven't had much rain. I think the rain's going to come this weekend, which might be an issue for water polo. But I still kind of don't feel like it's about to be November in basketball, but it is. And
we welcome it.
Oh, we'll get our like my turkey basketball analogy. We're gonna get plenty of basketball this month. We're gonna unlike some of the other sports where they were gone for the first month or two of the season.
Cheated.
Yeah, like volleyball, how they getting to be home. We're not getting cheated with basketball.
No, absolutely not. We're getting a ton of it all the way up until December, and then after December kind of tapers off a little bit. They have a few more road games. I was looking at some of the schedule, especially men's. The men's. One of the teams now, all of a sudden I can't think off the top of my head, but one of the teams kind of have a little bit more of a travel time than what we do. We get top heavy in the first half of the season.
Well, yeah, because also the end of December, I believe, is when West Coast Conference play gets going, and so kind of once that gets going, it's kind of just Thursday, Saturday, one team's home, the other's on the road, and that's kind of how it is during West Coast Conference play. Right. While before it's hey. Monday game, Wednesday game, Friday game.
Yeah.
When is there not a game?
Exactly.
But, tomorrow night, women's basketball, and, it'll be interesting. A lot of young players that I'm not really sure what to expect from.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about it just a few moments ago. There was, 6 new players that we've never seen hit the court, other than maybe we've seen some highlight reels of them, or we saw them on YouTube or something. It's just one of those kind of things. But, so a lot of, it's 6 new players that we're going to see for the very first time.
Yeah, 6 freshmen, and, outside of the 2 Stockton girls, which I've actually seen play in high school over the years, you've got... I actually think I've seen
Leona Tillman play. I think I was a referee for one of her games when she was playing for Lincoln.
I actually think I saw...
it was her junior or sophomore.
I want to say I actually saw Tillman play football in high school. Both from Stockton, St. Mary's, and Lincoln. And I'm pretty sure I saw them play against each other. I actually saw Newman play in high school also. But like that, again, we talked about the difference of high school basketball and college basketball is a big difference. And so... how much those freshmen are going to contribute, I'm not sure. I mean, I think tomorrow will be good. I mean, you mentioned the injuries, might limit Fadal, and anybody else.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to kind of almost, we're not at practice every day to see how certain players look. So, while tomorrow's just an exhibition game and not against a big-time opponent, it'll be good to see them out on the court and be like, oh, you know what, she kind of looks, she might be interesting. I think next week when we talk about, kind of recap the game from tomorrow night.
And we start to transition to men's basketball too.
Yeah.
Basically, if you hear next week and go, man, this was eerily similar to last week, it's because next week men's basketball tips off and we start to kind of cover them.
Yeah, but I think the one game, even in exhibition, we'll have a better idea, or kind of we'll both be, I think she might be somebody to keep an eye out for, a little bit better than now where we haven't seen them play. But right now it's kind of the expected,
of who we know.
Yeah, Gianna, Desire,
Jessica Blakesley,
Chelsea, it's those players right now, if we want to talk about who do we expect or think needs to step up. Right now our best guess is going to be on those upperclassmen, the ones that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Who do you need? I mean, like Gianna last year basically put a team on her back and didn't suffer any known injuries. She may have had some nagging stuff, a twisted ankle or sore ankle or a sore knee, whatever, that she wouldn't obviously divulge. But she put a team on her back that really needed it when the time came, but still sometimes wasn't enough. And we saw Desire 2 years ago, or essentially 2 years ago, have a breakthrough season and then she started suffering injuries this last season. Chelsea Lighty came up and had a little bit of a roller coaster of a season, but really started to show that she could be a force in this offense. But who needs to be that third or fourth person, or do we need to have to see who's gonna help Gianna and help this team take the step forward? I'm not going to sit there and say that they're going to be a powerhouse team, but who's going to take this step forward?
Well, and you mentioned,
and I've got players in my mind too. But
you've got Gianna last season was their leading scorer, averaging 14.5 points, and then you had Lighty averaged 9.7, and Desire was 9.4. And I mean, Chelsea and Desire both, I think, at times dealt with injuries, and their minutes were Chelsea played 17 minutes a game, Desire 19. Well, Gianna played 34. I mean, she was out there. I mean, she hardly was not out there.
The only time the only time that she ever came off the court was for one reason. That's because she may have gotten in foul trouble.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, that was the main reason. I think the person, and I don't want to say that her last season was a disappointment, but I think it was more, I had bigger expectations. I thought Desire last season was going to be somebody who averaged 15 points a game. And she dealt with some injuries. I think at times she struggled with her shot. I mean, she
shoots a line drive, and that I think hurts her in a lot of ways.
She has I don't know how it goes down. when like her threes, it doesn't seem like they barely get above the rim, but they somehow find a way. Mm-hmm. But I think what I'd like to see Desire do more, besides the fact that she missed that one call in our game that cost us our 3-on-3 battle.
I know how she feels now, apparently.
Yeah, she cost us. But I'd like to see her attack the basket more. I think the Tigers as a team sometimes fall in love with the three-point shooting a bit too much. And they've had success in years past. I mean, even back when former coach Amy Van Hollebeck, now Amy Farrell, was playing with the Tigers team, their success came with a lot of threes. I mean, ultimately, that's a way. If you're shooting threes, you can beat anybody, But I think, with Gianna, with Chelsea, with Desire, the Tigers, they play that fast tempo. I'd like them to see push the pace and don't stop at the three-point line and shoot those threes. Keep attacking. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's so huge to just keep attacking the basket. And you've got the guards, these three guards, Gianna, Desire, and Chelsea, that are fast. They can move quickly with the ball, and I think they really need to attack the paint. I mean, I think they need to try to be shooting. I don't know what would be an average amount of free throws attempts per game, but I think they need to be shooting 20 plus free throws a game. Like, they can continuously get to the free throw line, get teams in foul trouble, knock down the free throws. They're going to be hard to beat, and I think all three of those guards can do that. I mean, I think Desire. If Desire and Chelsea and Gianna can all average around 12 or 13 points apiece, I think they're going to have a lot of success.
Well, you look at, and you talk about the free throws. Here's the thing, and here's was a staggering number. Before conference play started, that team was getting to the line 16 to 17 times a game. When conference play started, or after conference play, and really it started to kind of go more towards the last 10 games of the season, they were only getting to the line 8 times.
Yeah, I mean,
and some of that, I put a lot of that on the referees at that point, because there were times that Gianna was absolutely getting mobbed, I think is the best way to really to describe it. She was getting absolutely destroyed whenever she tried to go into the lane, that eventually, when you talk about why Pacific had such a struggle against the zone defense, well, every time they try and go inside and drive, they were getting mobbed and they weren't getting the fouls called. So I'm not speaking for anybody else but myself. If you're going to attack it, if anyone wants to attack it, that's fine. Because I'm not speaking for Coach Davis, I'm not speaking for the university, I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for myself. That I put that solely on the referees, because now that changes a whole mindset of how this game's going to be played when they're not getting calls. And I'm not sitting there saying that every call should have been called. I'm sitting there saying that when someone's absolutely getting thrown to the floor, you need to make some calls, and I think the referees missed that a lot last season. Personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else but myself.
I mean, there are some times when I thought some calls didn't get made, but I also feel like part of it was because they stopped being aggressive, and so when they did try to be aggressive, they weren't getting the calls because they kind of hadn't established that they were, and I was curious. I looked up. So last season, on average, the Tigers shot 17 and a half free throws per game. Mm-hmm. Their opponents shot 21 and a half. So that's four less free throw attempts per game by the Tigers, and they knocked down 13 of 17. Opponents knocked down 15 of 21. I mean, but I just and I think also they run into some trouble in West Coast Conference play when they're playing those taller teams, and the
BYU's and 6'5".
It's a little harder to attack the paint, and perhaps there is some contact, but the girls also getting the ball. So you're like, hey, that's a lot of contact, but they're also getting the ball, which is why perhaps no foul call. Or
there was one that was right in front of me when we were calling games for Pacific, the radio side of things here at Pacific, and there was a couple right in front of me where they weren't. This was literally hockey moves. Like, they were getting hip checked. I mean, there's got to be something there, and no calls. And they're not getting the ball. I'm talking about Gianna hits the ground after getting hip checked, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's hockey, not basketball. But moving forward,
I mean, look, refs are going to miss calls. I mean, let's be.
Yes. No,
it doesn't matter the sport.
I've been there too. I've been a referee. I mean, I've been a referee, so I've missed calls. Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and lie.
And you know what? I'm being very careful so I don't get in trouble. But look, and that's what I have to say. Refs miss calls. Both. It's perhaps harder to look at it sometimes in games and think, oh, well, we didn't get fouls called against us also. Because especially when you've got certain fans in certain sports that scream, even when there's correct calls.
Yeah,
and that drives me crazy, is the fans that, it's like, all right, there's a certain level where you need to stop being full homer and, like the other team is allowed to actually make good plays and not be called for fouls too.
Yeah,
and so I think it kind of hearing fans scream all the time can kind of affect your thinking. Oh, maybe we are getting even more the short end of the stick, so to speak. Like fouls are gonna be missed or called incorrectly all season long. Get used to it.
There was a game that I think that I want to say it may have been Pepperdine. And don't quote me on it, because I remember looking at it and the free throws was completely lopsided. I mean, I don't know to talk about like by 4, but it was literally like Pepperdine, and I'll take the school name out of it only because I don't know if it was for them for sure. But it was the team shot 21 free throws, and while Pacific only shot 8. It was like, wow, really? Okay, but so back to the because I'm getting off topic now. Players that need to, I would say, and I'm not going to sit there and say step up. I think step up may have been a little bit more because I think that every player really does a great job of their role. But a player that I would love to see take the next level, and I think she already started to do that last season, would be Amelia Lee. If you talk about a player that has found a way to change the mindset of a zone defense, she exhibited that last season, later on in the season, as the season kind of started to wind down. I would love to see her shot start to materialize, and she could be a fun player to watch in her junior year and moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, with Emily Simons playing kind of center last season, the only real knock on somebody like Amelia is her size, unfortunately.
She's 5'6"?
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing she can do about that.
She's the same height as me. Leave her alone.
But I mean, she averaged almost 6 points a game. She shot 35%, kind of similar to the rest of the team. I mean, she's good when she's out there. I mean, if she can kind of come in, perhaps Gianna cannot have to play 34 minutes a game. Perhaps Gianna can play 30 minutes a game and be a little more rested and have more energy when she's out there. And, Amelia can push the tempo, can push the pace, and find players that attack the basket. And, while Amelia might have a tougher time drawing fouls than some of the other players, some of these players that we're going to get a better idea tomorrow, these freshmen that are 6 foot, 6'1", perhaps that can help the Tigers when they attack the basket, draw a few more fouls. The Tigers last season averaged over 23 3-point shots per game.
It's a lot. It's high.
And and it's great when you're knocking them down, but they averaged kind of I guess the normal average. They knocked it down about 33%, which is great when they're falling in. I don't know. I'd really like to see them attack the basket a lot more.
What I would, and we're about to take a next break, but what I would love to see is what I think one of the most dynamic parts of last season that I loved and I'd love to see more of is when you put Gianna and you in a healthy Desire and you put a ready to go Amelia Lee. You put those three together, this team could be that. It brings a dynamic that I don't think we've been able to fully see yet, because we typically would only see Gianna and Amelia together, and it put a good spark in this offense. If you add a Desire, and if a Desire is healthy and ready to go, that we see what she did in her sophomore year, this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you've got them attacking the basket. You got a little more size that can rebound the ball, or if you don't get a foul or make the basket. I mean, the women play fun basketball. Let's get a few more wins this season, and hopefully they will. I think they're being slept on, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Come West Coast Conference play. Not that it's not fair, because they're a young team. It's hard to know fully what to expect from the outside, but we'll get a much better idea of what's to come tomorrow night.
There's also a lot of other players that we're going to talk about, obviously, like Janelle Grant and Tyler King and all those other players. But when we come back, field hockey. I know Paul's ready for it. They split over the weekend with similar result versus Syracuse. However, did they show enough to make a run at the American East Tournament and to possibly get into the NCAA Tournament? Paul's not happy about something, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Pacific Tiger Broadcasting. This is 209 Sports.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there is a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there is a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
Eric Easy E. Wright, Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m., hosted by Tiger Radio's DJ, Mel D. Students who show up with a valid student ID receive a discount and are eligible to win dinner for two or other food and drinks from Baba's Mediterranean on the Miracle Mile.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know where you are! Welcome to the jungle, punk!
Baby, gonna make now. And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why.
Only here on Tiger Radio. at www.tigerradio.net.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
What? We gotta throw a little Metallica. I mean, if we're gonna do it all, we might as well do it right? You might as well throw a little Metallica in there. We had Korn. We had a little Avenged Sevenfold. I got a few others. We'll throw some other stuff out there. But thank you all for tuning in. JD, Jeff, Dominic, Paul Meiskens, Mr. Paul Meiskens, hanging out here in the Tiger Broadcasting Studios on the Pacific Tiger Facebook page and streaming also on 209 Sports YouTube channel. A lot of things. I mean, geez. It is weird, Paul, that we're talking already that a lot of teams are starting to end their season or getting close to playoffs or hold on one second here. And like I said, playoffs.
Playoffs?
I had it.
I wondered if you were going over that one.
I was looking for it. My bad. I'm horrible at this right now. But there are teams that are looking for potential extending their season, soccer being one of them. I don't think volleyball will get there, but if they find a way to win a game that'll put them in some sort of discussions, I've already kind of making asking around a little bit. If they were able to find a way to beat a BYU, for example, that puts them in a very peculiar position in a good kind of way that they may have some sort of opportunities. But also in field hockey. Their record may not show what this team truly is, because they've played a lot of the upper echelon teams. But they did split over the weekend. Unfortunately, they just can't seem to figure out things against the teams like Syracuse, but they did end on a note that they needed against Colgate, which we all kind of suspected would win. Congratulations to Savannah Burns, over 100 points now. We talked about it last week. Arguably, definitely one of the best that Coach Andy Smith has ever had to this point, but arguably one of the best that Pacific has ever had as well. Obviously, Campos is her point-wise may say that she's the best, but I think that Savannah is probably the best to this point right now.
At least in the modern era.
The modern era, if you want to go there, exactly.
Throw that one out there.
But this team, now you're unhappy about a certain specific situation. Before we get to it, the American East Conference tournament starts on Thursday. And I'm kind of guessing, let me do this. I'm kind of guessing that you are unhappy about the seating.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, hang on. Let me turn you down because you started to go off here. My bad. I was not ready for that.
Well, I told you. The field hockey is like coffee and narcotics and soda all combined in one to get me going. You know what I mean. But
we need to fire him.
Anyways,
but
so
no,
you're pretty pissed off about it.
Yeah, I'm not happy.
You can't say pissed off. I did find that out.
Oh,
but anyways.
Okay. Well, I'm not happy. They were they finished.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get fined. So they tied for first in the West Division with Stanford and Cal.
Yes.
And because of tie-breaking head-to-head in the meetings against Cal and Stanford, the Tigers ended up being the 3 seed from the West, which is absolutely ridiculous because Pacific is much better than Cal. Like, I know they split during the season against Cal. They played, they had a bad game at Cal. There was other stuff that contributed to that as well.
And really what it relies down to is something that Coach Andy Smith was upset about last week. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago? Sorry, I had to kind of get myself back together here. A couple of weeks back. I'll say that. Maybe about a week and a half. So in between. And it's something that where we won't put out the official that caused this situation, but it really affected the seeding because it went from a 2-0 game to a 2-1 game, and that was against Stanford.
No, it was actually against Cal. It was the Cal game.
Stanford.
Was it Stanford?
It was Stanford because it was a 2-0 game, and Stanford scored in the very last second, basically.
So the goal, it was 2-0.
I don't want to challenge you, but
you're right.
I know this one. This one I'm positive on.
Stanford. I have Cal in my mind because it came down to between Pacific and Cal for that the second spot. But the official, it's very
rare I'm right though.
The game was 2-0, and the official just assumed that it didn't matter. There was no time left, so he rolled the penalty corner and didn't really care. He figured, what's the big deal? 2-0, 2-1, it doesn't matter. Well, it did matter for goal differential, and it's funny because the official then did a game a couple days later and apologized, not realizing that goal did make a difference, and it was part of the difference. I don't know. It might not have actually ended up making a total difference. Either way, I get why they use the tiebreaker they do, but I mean, it's just really unfortunate. I mean, there's 4 teams in the America East Division or Conference that are ranked in the top 25. The Tigers are one of them. Maine is one of them, and those 2 are going to face in the first round. That's just ridiculous. And then, if the Tigers, or I say if, even though I want to say when. The Tigers then...
Yeah, you're slowing that down a little bit compared to what was the first week of the season.
No, I still am planning to go to Kentucky. But I'm also trying not to... it's all that superstitious... I don't want to jinx it also. And I don't know. But, I mean, if the Tigers win... If the Tigers win on Friday afternoon, and that's the also part that sucks, is the 1 versus 4s are on Thursday, the 2 versus 3s are on Friday, so the Tigers are going to have to play up to 3 games in 3 days, whereas if they are the 1 seed... they would have been able to...
Which, essentially, I don't think they should have been the 1 seed, to be honest with you. I mean, I see 2.
Well, I personally think Pacific's better than Stanford, so I do think they should be the 1 seed. But, the numbers, it is what it is. But it's just unfortunate that, last season's championship game in the America East Conference tournament was Stanford versus Pacific. And now, those 2, if they both win their first-round game, they're going to have to play in the semifinals, which is absolutely ridiculous because I know Albany is ranked, but I think they play a bunch of cream puffs. I think the East is overrated. How's that? I think...
Overrated!
I think Albany will come out of the 1 half and make it a championship game because they're gonna beat UC Davis by a touchdown. And then they're going to play Cal or New Hampshire, and it'll be a little closer. But Albany's going to be more rested. They're going to make the championship game. Well, they're going to face either Stanford or Pacific, who's just going to have gone through a bloodbath in the semifinals to get to the championship game. And I still will. Stanford or Pacific will win the America East Conference tournament. Sorry, Albany. Sorry, East Division. Not going to happen. The East is overrated. It's your typical field hockey's known for more being on the East. Well, the 2 powerhouse programs in the America East Division are from the West, Stanford and Pacific. And, Stanford Pacific Part 3 in the semis probably is going to decide who goes to the NCAA tournament.
With all the schedule and the fact that they've been benefiting to being able to stay on the East Coast and the teams that they've played, did they actually set themselves up to... not only, I wouldn't say dominate, but have a great chance of success in the American East Conference tournament, and then also start to transition towards, with the intent of transitioning towards the NCAA tournament. They've beaten, they've played, I shouldn't say beaten, they've beaten teams that are in the top 25. They've played a lot of teams in the top 25. Whether the success shows or not, they've played a lot of teams and have learned a lot over the season.
Yeah, I think, it's unfortunate that game against Syracuse, whether it's Andy or Savannah, who that have the unlucky, the score doesn't reflect the actual game.
It's so weird to hear her. It's so weird to hear that saying come from her voice. It's just like
that's because she's been here for 4 years. Right? But that game against Syracuse was unfortunate. It was 0-0 late in the first half, and the Tigers had a chance, really, to just
in the second game.
No, the first game. Against Syracuse, they had a chance to go ahead 1-0, and they had somebody. I believe it was Gabby on the far post. The pass was just too hard for her to handle. But all she needed was a stick to deflect it in an open goal.
Get a touch. Would have been 1-0 a lot. Get a touch.
Yeah, it would have been 1-0 Pacific. Instead, a couple minutes later, the Tigers then got a penalty corner. And the shot towards goal literally deflected, went up in the air over the goalie, started looping down, and literally landed right on top of the net, just barely over the car. Little soft air would have landed and gone in. You know what I mean? And then Syracuse went on and scored a goal couple minutes later to lead, scored again to make it 2-0, and then the Tigers scored a goal on a penalty corner. And once again, replay's supposed to help officials make the call, but I swear sometimes I think it helps them screw it up even more. Like they called, like they got it to Creaky, and then she went over to Savannah, and Savannah shot and scored, and they called Creaky for obstruction, which was absolutely ridiculous. Like I heard profanity being done over the broadcast by people not happy with the call, while I was cussing at home not happy with the call. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. But I mean, it was another one of those.
Could you decipher the person that was?
Oh, I knew absolutely who it was. It wasn't hard to know the voices. But unfortunately, we talk about they've played, I believe it's 9 games against teams that are ranked in the top 25. They only won 2. Mm-hmm. They beat Stanford, and I believe William and Mary was the other. And I think had Pacific been able to knock off Syracuse or win 1 or 2 of those games, like they lost, but like they easily could have won a couple more of those games. And if that was the case, I think we'd be looking at them having an outside chance of being selected for the NCAA tournament, even if they don't win the West Coast Conference, the America East Conference tournament.
I know it's so weird because like in Pacific, albeit that they're the same team, they have 3 different conferences. We have the Golden Coast Conference, the American East Conference, and then obviously the WCC, the West Coast Conference. So it's so weird to say, oh wow, we're doing this, we're doing that.
But no, and to go, I often get a little off topic when it comes to field hockey. But you're talking about their schedule and being back east. I think it's good. I think instead of them trying to fly in back east for the America East tournament like today and trying to quickly get used to the time, like they're in that time zone, so to speak. They're more, like their body's getting used to playing at certain times. I mean, the hopefully all 3 games are going to be kind of early our time. It's afternoon back there, and
Friday the 3rd will be at 11:30.
Yeah, when they came back from their last road game of the regular season, and before they got off the bus, head coach Andy Smith told them, we're gonna, next, in a week or so, we're headed, on the road to Syracuse to play Syracuse and Colgate, and then, then we've got the America East tournament after that, and then hopefully even more beyond that. Like they're thinking about, they weren't packing just for their trip to play Syracuse and Colgate and then the America East tournament. They were packing and bringing stuff to stay back on the East Coast for even longer. So, I think it's kind of, they wanted to kind of get over there, play another good opponent, try to get a big win to help their at-large chances. And I don't think even if they make the championship game and lose, they'll be an at-large. So, I mean, it just comes down to they got to win their next 3 games, and I think they're going to take care of it.
The RPI suggests that they should be. I mean, look at who they're playing.
Yeah,
I mean,
but there's not, the NCAA field hockey tournament is way fewer teams than soccer or basketball.
It's similar to what similar to what men's water polo is.
Yeah, there's a few more. I believe it's 16 teams. It might be 18 for field hockey.
And I think water polo is 10.
Yeah. So there's a few more, but I think I think the lack of big time wins hurts. I mean, if the RPI is great. They played a lot of great teams. I think they're lacking the extra marquee win or 2 that you would need. You can't just play the opponents. You also need to get a win or 2 over them.
Well, they played Stanford. Beat Stanford. They're 17th right now. Boston College, they took them to the brink. I mean, they lost 5-4. They're number 8. William & Mary, they're 18th.
Yeah, and I think it also comes back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. Is I think when it comes to
kills me that Harvard loss, but anyways.
Yeah, when it comes to at large, it could come down to Pacific and say a team from the East with similar record. They're like, well, Pacific had a great RPI, but they didn't beat anybody. They beat outside of William. They beat Stanford and they beat William and Mary. I think if it comes down to an at-large chance, I think it'll end up with me even more upset and angry on a Tuesday here with you, unfortunately. But I don't want it to come to that. I'm not expecting it to. We need to hope. No, Maine Friday, Stanford probably Saturday, and then bring on Albany on Sunday, and they can take care. They control their own destiny. Go out and play good hockey like they're good. They're able to win the next 3 games, and then it's NCAA tournament time. And their team is fully set to do that this weekend.
Well, we'll keep an eye out on it. Once again, they play number 25, nationally ranked number 25, Maine, on Friday, 11:30 in the morning, which I should be up for. But when we, what do we got coming up next? What did I have coming up next? Come on, Paul, help me out. Now, all of a sudden, you're not ready for me.
I think we should do more field hockey.
No. Negative Ghost Rider. I think I already have that scheduled for a little bit later, don't I?
Yeah, because we're going to talk about 100 career points.
I do. Mark and I have, well, let's go ahead and hit this real quick. There we go. Mark and I might have the night off of camera duties, but this doesn't make this week any less important. This week, Delta Volleyball welcomes 3 games, which includes Folsom Lake, which might be the winner take all for the Big 8, and can Delta take it down? Plus some other things coming up. 209 Sports, Mr. Paul Meiskes, I'm JD Jeff Dominic. We'll be back here in just a few moments. Pacific Tiger Broadcasting and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the leave release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's recluse and shelters. The SFSPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support in youth each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Are you a movie fanatic? Do you get excited grabbing that buttery popcorn and sweet candy all to enjoy a fantastic movie? then come on by the Janet Lee Theater where you can experience all this for little to no cost. That's right, Pacific students get in free, faculty, staff, and alumni admission is only $3, while general admission is only $5. And to make things even better, concessions are just $1. Movie showings are every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. For more information, follow us
Tiger Radio
on Facebook and Instagram, or visit ASUOP.com.
The Pulse of Pacific.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
What, you didn't think I had another rock song going on in around here? I've got plenty. I've got plenty to go on.
Yeah, this is a little different than like the Soccer and Port soundtrack. You got any roll out the barrels?
I was just gonna say that.
That was your windshield. Take it to Stockton Auto Glass. No.
Woo! I got a lot of woohoos.
Yeah.
And that's what else? What else we got? There's always one other one that I just. Thank you. Come again.
Yeah, the car crash or the breaking glass sound.
Yeah, there's always that one. I'm sure you're happy that baseball's over. I'm sure you're ready to have it back in a couple months. No, not a couple months.
Doesn't matter when it's.
Let's say March.
The answer is no.
It's work, right?
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It passes the time until field hockey.
That's true. I don't think it really passes the time till field hockey. I think it just kind of is there, and it is what it is, right?
Yeah. You know what? It's nice, whether it's Pacific or other places, you've got sports year-round. So it's, from one sport to the other, some are more fun than others. But you know what? Ultimately, none of them are that bad, even though we like to complain sometimes, or at least I do.
So I told you, remember last week, you asked if I was going to bring something wrestling style, because we did talk wrestling, right? We were going to say, because obviously intern Ashley, I have to enunciate how I say it, because apparently everyone I've talked to thinks I say international.
Oh.
International, intern Ashley was,
interesting.
Is not here, so she. But we did say that I would bring in something for the Halloween thought. So here's what I had.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'll put it on video here in a second. Yeah. There we go.
Now,
my mask on.
Now you're a lot better suited for TV.
I'm much better looking now. Let me get to the. I can't see nothing. There we go. Sin Cara's in the house, folks.
Wow.
Cara, thank you all very much. Sin Cara is just hanging out on a Halloween. Speechless?
I wasn't expecting that.
So for this next segment, Sin Cara is going to go ahead and.
I can't look up without wanting to laugh.
So I had something for you. I almost thought about bringing the WWE title as well with me, but since Sin Cara can never win a title, it made it pointless. But anyways,
Sin Cara wasn't one of the wrestlers that was released yesterday, was he?
I don't know. Nor do I care.
There's 3 wrestlers released. You should know this. I bet intern Ashley would have known. That's intern Ashley, not international.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm surprised.
You're gonna take a selfie now?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to go.
I think that should be your new default photo for things.
You're stupid. Okay, I was kind of looking at something here real quick. The W.TV has released their Top Plate Tuesday, and
are we on it?
Looks like Andres Ochoa.
Is he number 1?
He's number 5.
What?
Right?
You know,
what? Cam Riley's goal is pretty spectacular. I'm surprised if it's not on here. That would be upsetting.
I think they try not to have the same school be number 1 because there's a couple.
I don't think they will. Yeah.
There's a couple of weeks ago when Michaela was number 1 for all her saves, and then the next week we had a game-winning goal. Yeah, in fact, it was the next week Cameron Riley scored the game winner in overtime against Santa Clara, and somehow that was only the number 5 play, while the number 1 play was a goal also from that same game that made it like 1-0, and I was like, really? Mm-hmm. Like, I would think a game-winning goal in overtime might be more important than the first goal of a 7-goal game, but, what am I?
They're really focused on soccer right now. USF, the USF goal apparently was in there, and then finally, track and field. Huh. Congratulations. Anyways.
Hey, not to. I know we're going to talk volleyball in a sec, but something not on our rundown and not something we talk about very often. But you mentioned track and field. The cross country championships were last week, and the women's team finished in. Now I want to say. Either way, I want to say it was 7th, but it might have been 5th. Either way, it was their best finish in program history. So,
swimming had a good week as well, and then also so did golf. Random things that I just hadn't even really had a chance to talk about yet.
Well, we don't really. Those aren't sports that we really know a lot about because we don't stream them. It's not really, it's not easy to stream across country, that kind of stuff. But I got to know one of the, I was going to say player, but I guess it would just be a runner.
Athlete.
And I was like, all right, and was like, well, our championships are coming up in Oakland. And I was like, do they stream it? And she's like, yeah, they do. I was like, all right, I was like,
check it out.
It only takes like 20 minutes. So I was like, so I brought the stream and I watched and it was just, I saw a little bit of Pacific at the beginning, at the starting lineup, when they all kind of break and go. But outside of that, the next 15 minutes was kind of just the one USF girl in front all by herself running. I was like, oh, that's a little, probably why it's not streamed online all the time.
Yeah, probably.
But no, they finished 7th, which was their highest finish in program history, led by sophomore Jasmine Gonzalez. So, while not a sport we see a lot of, it doesn't matter the sport. If a team's doing a big performance and it's their best in program history, that's good for the program.
Well, one of the programs that always seems to be successful is Delta, and we only got a few minutes to kind of talk about it because we kind of we do what we do, and we do it on a regular basis, and that's go off the rails. Delta has a big week coming up, and it starts all this week, really capped off by this Friday against Folsom Lake. It's sophomore night. Folsom Lake, one of the best teams in the conference, and if you have an opportunity to go out and check root these girls on, they do a phenomenal job. I mean, right now they are 17-3, 10-1 in the Big 8. They've won 3 in a row. They're 9-3 at home, 7-0 away. So they win better on either neutral or away sites, and yet they find a way to. But anyways, they're averaging 13 kills per set. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I don't get to Delta volleyball as often as you and our invisible co-host Mark do.
DJ JOD.
But I think there's 3 key things for them to come away with that win later this week. I'll go in reverse order, so I'll start with 3, and that's communication. I mean, I think it's improved.
Which has improved.
It's improved, and so I think that's always important, especially at that level. Number 2, I think we joke about it. Even not seeing anybody play, it's the serve and pass game. How making it difficult for the other teams to set up their offense on the serve, not give away free points. That even like with Pacific volleyball, so often it's not just the ace numbers, but getting free balls played over and getting quick opportunities to score on your serve. It's huge, and so obviously that'll be important. And then the number one biggest thing for them to get a win, not have me there because they're 0-1 with me in tournaments. So I won't be there. So I think they're looking good.
I think a lot of it. Why not? You're missing out on a good show.
Oh, it's a matter of there's only one me. There's a lot of games that go on at once. And
actually, it's a Friday. I know you're going to be gone anyway, so
I'll be at another horrible football game.
that's nothing new at that point.
I hope to make at least one more game before the end of the season if it works out.
Wednesday will probably be it. Otherwise, you're going to be hitting playoffs. This is the last week for them.
Tomorrow we have basketball.
Then it looks like tomorrow ain't going to happen. It may happen for Mark, but not for me. I'll be there Friday for sure.
No, I mean, again, there's a lot of sports going on, and sometimes,
I know, I'm messing with my ears. Leave me alone.
It's distracting. But no, if I don't make it, I'm glad I made it out to a game earlier this season. That's one more than I've made in years past. So,
that's true. That's true.
And again, they lost when I was there, so maybe I'm bad luck.
You went to one game. You went to one game.
Yeah, and they played the best team, so
yeah, that's true.
It figures. But no, I mean, they're year in, year out, Delta Volleyball is going to be battling for a championship, and this year, they're right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll take it on here again in in a little more than 24 hours, and then of course they play again on Friday. But when we come back, it's time to it's time for me to hit a button here.
Are we gonna cannonball into the swimming pool?
There we go. No swimming pool. Remember, that's after this.
Oh, okay.
We're going to take a look at women's basketball schedule, including the WCC games. Which one stands out as a must-see right here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel? JD Jeff Dominic and Mr. Paul Meiskens. We'll both be right back.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPC-SSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your first language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPC-SSA right now. 我们期待你的加入。
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there is a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there is a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you are. Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now. And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why.
Only on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Back here 209 Sports, JD Jeff Dominic, and Mr. Paul Myskins. No Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leong. I'm sure everyone's disappointed. Unless you're... Actually, I think we're more disappointed that intern Ashley is not here more than anybody. But
she's a little better, a little easier on the eye than any of us.
She'd have been a little bit more. She'd have had more entertainment with that Sin Cara mask than anybody out of that I was expecting to throw out there. But
she would have. Although she might have been disappointed she didn't bring one for herself also.
Yes, absolutely. I was looking through what you were talking about. I don't see anyone that's been announced released in the WWE.
There was Darren Young, I think, was one. And then there was two women. Summer Rae, is that her name? And like Emma, maybe.
Here we go. Really, Emma was released? That would be crazy.
It was it seemed like she was some Burnett International girl.
Yeah, she's from Australia.
Yeah, they weren't. I saw something on social media, and that's the only reason I knew it was like 3 wrestlers released, and then like showed like normally happens. Other wrestlers going, "Oh, good luck, gonna miss you," all that, all the typical social media stuff. You see it?
I'm working on it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so wrestling fans were shocked on Sunday after WWE had terminated the contract of Raw Emma. It had been less than a week since the TLC match. She's been enjoying a push in recent weeks, and last Sunday's appearance at TLC was her first ever PPV event.
And her last.
She reacted by tweeting a heartbroken emoji. And then someone from NXT got released, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was so. I just did a quick Google. Darren Young released, and Emma, Darren Young, and Summer Rae released.
Oh, Summer Rae, you could care less. Anyways,
I could care less for all 3.
No, Emma was pretty cool. I mean, it's sad. Darren Young.
It's sad for it's sad for them, obviously, but
yeah. Anyways,
it didn't get me worked up as much as Pacific being a 3 seed from the West in field hockey.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we'll go back to field hockey later.
Later.
But basketball.
The schedule came out obviously a while back, but actually about 4 months ago, roughly, I think. But anyways, knowing what we know now about the team, which isn't very much yet, but looking down at the schedule, is there a team that you look at going, I can't wait. I really, really, really can't wait just to see the actual matchup wise, and it's hard to really kind of even gauge that because we know what. We know what we're bringing to the table. We don't know about the freshmen yet, so it's kind of hard to really kind of go there. But is there a team that kind of matches up that you kind of go, you know what? I think we could have a good opportunity here, and it could be now, it could be a month from now, or it could be when West Coast Conference play starts.
The first one that stood out to me, and I'm going to use this answer for Mark, that way I can say a second one, but is the Cal game. I think it's always fun when Cal comes. One nice thing about the Cal game is, and the reason I joked Mark is because Cal also has a player from St. Mary's. So you're going to have the Battle of St. Mary's as McCole Caton is a sophomore. She went to St. Mary's. She plays at Cal. Cal also has a freshman 6'3" forward from San Diego named Alacia Stiles, who actually saw play at St. Mary's during her high school days, and she was amazing. In fact, I saw all sorts of coaches there from not just Pacific, but all through the West Coast Conference and all over the place, like wanting to get her, and she had a great game, and then she, I don't remember the injury, but had a huge injury, had to be carried out, and so I'm kind of excited to see her. But I think Cal's always kind of a fun matchup, no matter the sport. When Pacific can get Cal to come here, I mean, to get a school like that, Pac-12 school to come here is exciting. But as far as the other home games, I think the one non-West Coast Conference game I'm curious to see is the one on Monday the 13th against Fullerton, which I actually won't be able to be at. And hopefully you'll be manning the scoreboard for that one. But I think Fullerton's a kind of a, you look at some of the posts, no offense to William and Jessup or UC Merced, who I mentioned, I like their logo on the schedule. But, those kind of teams aren't really, you don't really think, well, that's going to give us a good sign of what's to come this season. I think Fullerton's probably a team. I mean, I don't know. I don't
There's
follow.
a couple of good ones here.
Yeah, Fullerton always seems like when we were in the Big West that Fullerton was always in the top third, so to speak. And so I would expect that would be a kind of a nice early test, kind of a where are we at? What are kind of expectations that can be set for the season? I think so it's kind of funny, but the first game of the regular season, because that's not an exhibition, but the first game of the regular season against Fullerton, and then the West Coast Conference. I think the first game of the West Coast Conference against Gonzaga at home is going to be. You've got Gonzaga's going to be one of the teams to beat. Getting to start at home, you kind of hope if that's your chance to knock off one of those teams, it's more likely at home than on the road. So I think those are the three games that most stand out to me, at least.
Here's the funny thing, and I want to get to this real quick because you just mentioned Gonzaga, and it's kind of a little bit of a homecoming for Amanda Brown, the assistant coach. She's a former Gonzaga alum, so it kind of makes things a little bit fun for her.
Yeah,
I just kind of enjoy that. Now, one, she gets to do that twice, so she gets to see them come to the Spanos Center and gets a chance to kind of interact with former coaches and former players or players that may still know her to a level, and then she gets to go back home later on. I would say home, but she gets to go and visit her old stomping grounds and say hi to some people and kind of get a little bit of a homecoming. Is what I was looking for.
Yeah, and you mentioned Amanda Brown, kind of the one change on the coaching staff, replacing Amy Farrell, who went to any kind of more because of being a new mom. Finding something a little less less travel demanding. Yeah. Although I didn't see her, but I guess she was actually at the soccer game on Sunday, along with her husband, along with Jordan, who used to coach with the men's soccer team. Now coaches soccer up in Sacramento. I think with the Sacramento. What are they?
The Sac Republic, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember their mascot.
He does the 12 and under.
Does he?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know he's out. I just know he's elsewhere. But I mean, they both no longer work at Pacific. But of course, Amy played and coached here. Jordan played here, and now they're so that's the lone coaching change. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure she'll enjoy seeing some old friendly faces.
So the two that I'm looking at, and of course now mentioned like one, but there are, and I really actually didn't say one. I just kind of said which ones are we looking for. The UC Davis one kind of makes it fun only because it's everyone wants to call it the 99 rivalry, which because if you take 99, which is I see you kind of going whatever, dude. I'm not going there either. I just think it's funny that people do that, but it is kind of fun because it is a home. You don't have to go too far from home to do it, so it's always kind of fun. The other one that intrigues me, the UCF one. Central Florida coming all the way from the East Coast to come and hang out with the Pacific Tigers and play a little basketball. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to no matter the sport, when you can get, whether it's softball or field.
Trending teams like this.
Teams that you're like, no offense to UC Davis, but, we see them all the time. And they're, at least, even if UCF's the worst team in women's basketball, it's still, somebody different. It's fun to see somebody different. And you mentioned like the UC Davis or the Sac State. You kind of like to try to hope there's a rivalry of sorts nearby, but it's like there's not really. It's like in minor league baseball when the Ports try to make a rivalry with the Modesto Nuts, or it's like let's not get carried away. It's not
rivalry is Sac State versus UC Davis. That's a true rivalry because it's in the same city or in the same area. Careful, I didn't want to.
Rivalry is like Red Sox Yankees. Like a legit. Like it's harder in college sports or non-pro sports, I should say, to really have a rival. I think high school is a little easier to have rivals. Like say
the SEC has rivals. That's college.
I mean, True, but it's more so in football than most of the other sports. I mean,
then we can go to the ACC in basketball.
There's some, it just depends on the sport and whatever. But I mean,
But let's be honest too. I just said conferences. I didn't say anything about. I mean, this Pacific versus UC Davis is not going to be a rivalry.
Let me ask you this: is there a sport or a team here at Pacific that has a rival?
Oh, here at Pacific?
Yeah. Any sport? Is there any? Is there
yes.
any?
Right now, yes. And I can easily. This one should be a no-brainer. But I can go to field hockey and take on Stanford. That should be a good. That's a good rivalry.
True.
New rivalry, but a rivalry.
But let me say, maybe this is trying to make a caveat or I don't know if that's even the word I was looking for. But one that the mass public, if you said, like if we say Duke, North Carolina basketball, everybody would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Is there what of Pacific would you say is a rivalry?
Yeah,
I like what you said about Stanford and Pacific, and I think it absolutely is become a rivalry. In fact, Pacific Cal, because of the tie-ins and not so friendliness, also might be a bit of a rivalry. But for the mass general public, they're not going to look at it.
They go field hockey, really. A lot of outside of this university and outside of universities that really push a program like field hockey, I don't think a lot of people would know it.
No.
Honestly, in the fear of having any kind of quote-unquote dead air at the moment, I would have to resort myself to at least let myself think about it for a moment. I'm sure there are rivalries that are I don't know if you want to call them rivalries, but potential stuff there.
Well, I mean, we can just kind of walk through. I mean, men and women's soccer. I mean, I don't think there's a rivalry there. I mean,
Portland could be an interesting one in the future.
You could have you could have some rivalries build up over time. But I mean, as far as mass
for men's soccer,
quick off the top of a general fan's head, that nobody's going to be like, oh, well, of course there's a huge. How can you not know Pacific versus Portland soccer is a huge rivalry?
Right this second, no.
No, same thing for
but
field
it's
hockey.
Building. I can say that it's building. And the San Diego one might start to build a little bit too. It could be fun.
And I'm not, in Portland's men's soccer team has great fan support for all their games up there. I've seen videos and stuff, and it's nuts. You wouldn't know it's a college game by the atmosphere. But I mean, there's not really something that off the top of your head a general person would go, oh, there's a rivalry. You would hope maybe in time. I mean, you would think a rivalry here, you're not going to have one like softball or baseball, really. I mean, there's some good battles, Pacific BYU and softball, But, like, basketball is kind of the big sport where if Pacific's going to have a big rival, it'd be in that. But right now, I mean, maybe in time, Pacific and St. Mary's. I mean, Pacific St. Mary's basketball, men, maybe it's close to there's a rivalry, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's really a big rival.
I don't think you can really go there yet because I think that just because St. Mary's had the last couple of years have had such success over Pacific that I don't really know if you can really consider that rivalry yet. It'll be interesting to see what the men's team, which we'll talk about next week, it'll be interesting to see what they put on the court because I'm really excited. I've only heard good things about that team.
Yeah, and I
could see a rivalry coming up.
And I like what you said there because you mentioned there's a lot of contrived rivalries or bad blood, so to speak, maybe. But you know what? It's not really a rivalry if one team's winning every time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's why we talked about Stanford Pacific field hockey is split the matchups during the regular season the last couple of years. It's a good close games every time. Like that's the kind of thing you need. Kind of a conference opponent where you're playing. Either team can win on a given day. It's not completely dominated by one side. Close competitive games. Local teams like that is what builds a rivalry.
And if you want to kind of go there, if we were to let's put men's basketball there right now, since we just kind of got on that topic. If you're going to talk about rivalry, I would say Pepperdine would be right now the closest rivalry we had, only because of what they did last year. Last year, the Pacific Tigers go down to Pepperdine, they lose by 5. Flip it around. They win by 5. I mean, if we're going to go there, that's fine.
True.
But the St. Mary's one, it makes sense, but I'd love to see what happens this season.
I think, and Pepperdine, again, it's a fine line of, like, the distance. I think you really need somebody, like somebody like a St. Mary's, a Santa Clara.
USF.
One of those teams. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, Santa Clara or USF really has that excitement that would get, right now St. Mary's is among the leaders in the West Coast Conference. I mean, along with Gonzaga and BYU. They're a team, when St. Mary's comes here, along with Gonzaga and BYU, it's one of the best attended games. People get excited for that game, even though over the last few years, St. Mary's has been the better team, and so, the team, hopefully starting to turn around. If we can start winning a game or two, that game could really become a real rivalry, in my opinion. And so, we'll talk more about men's basketball next week, of course. But, I don't think we have one yet. I mean, I feel like there's some rivalries in some of the lower sports, not lower sports to me, but in the general public's opinion.
Fair enough, yeah.
There's some good battles, but not ones that a general person would know as a rival. But
you see some building.
Yeah, and over time.
Women's soccer, I don't see it yet. Men's soccer, we see in Portland, possibly San Diego.
Yeah.
Field hockey, we see that potential
I
there
think,
for Stanford.
Part of it is it's either really, really close. You talk about like a Sac State, UC Davis kind of thing, like so close right next to each other, or two teams that are maybe not quite as close geographically, but every year,
have good
over
programs.
long times, they're good programs, they're great battles. That kind of builds the excitement. And hopefully, you'd hope somehow we can get some rivalries in all sports. And I think St. Mary's perhaps would be the most likely one, at least basketball-wise.
For men's. How about women's? I mean, that one's kind of harder to digest a little bit. I always seem to feel like they play the toughest against teams like Santa Clara, and I don't know why, but I would kind of put that one out there for women's basketball, and mainly because I like the way that Wolf plays over there in Santa Clara. I don't know her first name, but I know her last name, just because that's easy to remember. But I would say that maybe Santa Clara could be that potential rivalry, fun kind of game. I don't see it as a marquee matchup, but to me, that always seems to be a fun one to watch. And I'm talking about fun. I'm not sitting there saying.
I have a hard time. I just, to me, with women's basketball, it seems like it doesn't matter the opponent. The fans are like. I think we're going to have as many fans for the William Jessup game as we might have for Cal, which seems kind of crazy. I mean, maybe not because Cal's Cal, and there's
Cal's going to travel well.
There's some extra tie-in, but I mean.
Not saying William Jessup won't. I'm just thinking because, one, that's an exhibition game. Not a lot of turnout's going to happen because of that, but I think Cal's going to travel well.
Yeah, I just mean, I think it's harder to get public into a rivalry in women's basketball compared to men.
Oh, absolutely, especially in this area when men's basketball is highly regarded in this area.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying women's basketball.
I think and I mentioned St. Mary's for the men, and I think the St. Mary's Pacific rivalry could be a good one for the women as well. I think the extra kind of fun tie-in is the fact that one of our assistant coaches is married to or in a relationship with the coach at St. Mary's.
Yeah,
so I think that kind of throws a little fun wrinkle in. I think Pacific and St. Mary's are similar kind of schools in size, competition level. Like I don't feel like I don't know if Pacific can get. I mean, ideally, we'd like to be like Gonzaga in men's basketball, Final Four, whatever.
And something like that with the potential of growing can happen.
Yeah.
It has to. There has to be drastic changes as far as growth goes.
But I don't see why Pacific couldn't be as good as St. Mary's is in basketball on a year-to-year basis.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not even better. So I just feel like that combined with the, kind of the localness of it. St. Mary's fans travel well. Pacific fans can travel. It's not that far for teams to go back and forth. And, I think that's a rivalry, a big rival in the making, so to speak. But again, before it's a rivalry, we need to win. We got to beat them. And so hopefully this season we can do that.
So there's a few other things that we'll look at. I mean, of course, the very first one is coming up tomorrow at 7 o'clock. First tip for women's basketball officially gets underway, and that is against William Jessup. We'll talk about that probably next. We'll talk about that next week as well as start to kind of we've already kind of started to preview men's basketball. We'll get more in depth into it next week, but plenty of things to kind of hit as we get to that point. When we come back, it is time to talk a little bit of water polo. It's probably one of the main, I'll say one of the main, but definitely the main event this weekend as they are taking on USC. We'll discuss that. We'll kind of get everything kind of ready to go here when we come back. This is 209 Sports.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Attention UOP veterans. The Veterans Resource Center is your campus location for the education benefits you've earned. The VRC is located in the front of the main gym in the center of campus. The VRC has visits from VA health professionals, benefit experts, and employment specialists. So come on down to the VRC, where sodas and printing is free.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPC-SSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your first language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPC-SSA right now.
我们期待你的加入。
Eric Easy E. Wright, Urban Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the US are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore it. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the leave release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's recruits and shelters. The SFSPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
College Night at Baba's this Saturday, 7 to 10 p.m., hosted by Tiger Radio's DJ Mel D. Students who show up with a valid student ID receive a discount and are eligible to win dinner for two or other food and drinks from Baba's Mediterranean on the Miracle Mile.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now. And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
The pulse of Pacific.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
I'm kind of running out of rock songs right now.
Sorry.
I had one more, but I may save that for later. This is
my walk-up song.
This is your walk-up song?
Yeah, I had the Tiger.
Thank you all for joining us here as we kind of get ready to go. You know, it was funny. We were just talking about it off air, and we were talking about how attendances and rivalries and the potential being there. You know, water polo may have a couple of good ones starting to form as well. I mean, and some of them are playing obviously top-ranked schools. It seems like they play UCLA twice a year every year, and the crowd is a pretty good turnout on a regular given night over at Chris Keltson Pool. I wouldn't say that UCLA may be the quote-unquote rivalry, but they always seem to have a really good game. 2 times in a row now, UCLA has played Pacific, and it's been decided by 1 goal. And albeit that Pacific has always keeps finding a way to have a resurgence late, it just always seems to fall a little bit short.
Yeah, I mean, the game, I think the game against UCLA earlier this season was a little, both were 1-goal losses, but the one earlier this season was a little more closer. They lost 12-11 to UCLA, but they were trailing 11-5 going to the 4th. So I mean, it was good that they battled back. They scored the final 4 goals of the game, including the one with 10 seconds left to cut it to 1. But I mean, at that point, UCLA was probably spreading the pool on their offensive possessions and just happy to let the clock tick away. But the one thing I liked in that loss though against UCLA though was they drew 13 power plays. They converted on 7 of them, whereas that's huge. If you can, that's what you need. When they played UCLA earlier in the season, I think they were 1 for 6, 1 for 7. Like they got a few, but they didn't convert. You got to score on the 6-on-5s.
Well, even against Pepperdine a couple weeks back, it was the fact that they scored, but they only scored 4-on-12 of the power plays, something like that, and 4-on-13. I don't quote me on the amount, but of how many exclusions there were. But I know that they scored. I believe it was 4. So
yeah, I mean.
But that's 4 free goals, basically. That determines an outcome sometimes.
Yeah, actually, 4 for 12.
Solid! Attaboy!
But I mean, and on the other side, they do a good job defensively when they give them up. I mean, Pepperdine, in that game that you were talking about, they were 2 for 8. So, but like, you've got to even more important this Sunday when they take on USC. When you get those 6-on-5s, you got to convert. You're not likely going to get that many of them. You might get 5 or 6. You got to convert because those are the games where you've got to convert on a high percentage to if you want to pull off the win. And Sunday's game against USC is at 1:00, and I'm sure there'll be a tailgate. The only downer might be some weather issues with some rain. Looks like it might actually start acting like winter.
Well, fingers crossed we may see it Friday and Saturday. So fingers crossed that it actually happens the way it's supposed to happen. And I was hearing that it was supposed to be Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday was supposed to clear up. Can't guarantee it. I'm not a weatherman, but I'm probably just as good as one, to be honest with you.
Hey, you're in front of a green screen too. Here's from the northwest, the current,
right?
The
northeastern current. Northeastern. Wait, we're on the other side of the world. How did that come through?
But no, I mean, either way, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but the crowd on Sunday for that game, like the crowd for when we play USC is going to be electric. Like, I know you're going to be disappointed you're not going to be able to.
I'm not happy, but that's because
you can only do so much when the games are. But I mean, that game, even with rain, that game will be a sellout. It'll be standing room only. The crowd will be nuts. It'll be, USC is not it's not that close, kind of like UCLA. You're talking about rivals in water polo. USC travels really well. Like there'll be a good amount of USC fans in the crowd, but hopefully they'll be drowned out by all the orange and black because it's going to be, we talked when intern Ashley was here last week. Even if you've never been to a water polo game, the one on Sunday, go.
I promise you one thing for sure. I will be watching the stream. Only because there is no way, shape, or form am I going to want to miss this game.
No. And
if I can't be there in person, there's no way I want to miss this one.
As you know, we've talked about more than once, water polo I mean, there's no better place for college water polo anywhere. I don't care anywhere.
Yeah, you can name Cal. You can name all these
USC, teams. UCLA. I'll take Pacific. The atmosphere at Chris Kelson Pool is
bar none.
It's electric. The setting. You got the student sections all come support. I mean, I think water polo gets the best student support out of any program here at Pacific. I mean, there's sometimes basketball has better.
Yeah, I was going to say men's basketball has an opportunity.
But it's often because of promotions to get them there. Yeah. Like outside of, I mean, there's a food truck and the tailgate. So there's stuff they promote to get them at the water polo too. But they're into that water polo game behind that one goal.
No, they absolutely freak out.
Yeah. and they're painted, they're into it. You've got fans on the one side, like in front of the bleachers, bringing their own chairs, sitting on the ground. You got even on the behind the one other goal off to the left of at least where we sit on the one side. You've got people sitting outside looking through the fence where there's not ivy blocking it. I mean, it's just
people standing on each other's shoulders. For the short people that can't see it, I've seen it. Trust me.
I
haven't lived it.
Friends or family members of athletes at Pacific for other sports that are in town come to games, and they don't know anything about it, but they have a blast. I mean, it's great. The games aren't that long.
I was going to say that was one of my points.
I mean, it's back and forth action, nonstop. There's not very many breaks between the quarters. I mean, the game
3 minutes.
Yeah, the game starts at 1. You're going to be done by 2:15.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just if you like certain other sports, whether it's soccer or field hockey, there's parts of those sports in water polo. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's gonna be fun, rain or shine. It's gonna be a great place to be on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I was gonna say was that the fact remains, the other teams travel well too, and not just because of they want to support their team. They want to see the same kind of situation, the same kind of atmosphere, the same kind of feel that maybe they're not used to. I.e., I will not speak for this school, but at the same time, Pepperdine traveled real well, and from what I understood, they say this atmosphere is not like this, and we're a top school, and they're not like this over in Malibu.
Yeah, I don't think it's a secret in the water polo community about what you're going to face when you come here. Mm-hmm. Not just the team in the pool that's a national championship contender, but the whole atmosphere. I mean, when I go to sports, it doesn't matter what the sport, whether my team's home or road, I want to go to an atmosphere that makes it fun, like makes it seem even bigger. Like, I don't care that it's a normal Golden Coast Conference. Like, Pepperdine fans for that game, they knew they weren't coming here and winning. I mean, you always root for the upset.
In the court of Garrett Tarrant, they may have hit the lottery once. They weren't going to do it again. Yeah, and then we heard Coach Graham say that we lost focus and we weren't going to let that happen again.
But win or lose, to come experience the atmosphere, it's just that much more fun. Mm-hmm. It makes win or lose that much more fun. And so I think, if you're a part of these other water polo teams, you know how it is here. And if you're fans, they know as well. They want to come and experience it. Hey, we're coming. Maybe we pull off the upset, and it's going to be a blast. But even if not, it's still going to be a fun game to check out. I mean, I would think for some of these teams, they're like, you know what, this road game is a must-see, and they want to come see play here. And it's, not just it's going to be a great game in the pool, but the atmosphere is great, and Sunday's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
And I think, once again, USC, will travel extremely well, considering that they're in the southern part of California. But I think I really want to say Pacific needs to find a way to take this one. I mean, after a tough one once again against UCLA, I think they got to find a way, and I think that will boost a certain kind of confidence level that they need.
Yeah, I think the key is
I think they come in confident. I just think that they need that extra.
That game against Stanford, I was a little surprised that it although it was close the first 3 quarters, and then Stanford kind of pulled away late. I think.
What was it, 7-7 or something like that going in the third quarter?
Yeah, it was a 1-goal game
or something like that. Yeah,
it was a 1-goal game. Pacific nearly scored a tie at center in the 4th, and then Stanford kind of pulled away late. They also scored a couple garbage goals late to make it look more. Yeah, the score didn't reflect the outcome, right, Andy Smith?
Yeah,
but. I think,
or Savannah Burns, either one.
I think I'd not be surprised if we win or lose on Sunday. I think it'd be good if we can get an early lead. The crowd is already going to be ready. Like, anything good, they're going to be going nuts. If we could,
I still say that even with it, with the potential of rain, I still, just because of the magnitude of this matchup, I still say the turnout's going to be big.
I think rain or shine, it's going to be standing remotely.
Yeah,
but I think the student support will not be that much affected by the weather. I think rain or shine, those crazies will be out there no matter what. I think as far as general public, or even USC fans, maybe if the weather's horrible, a few less come than might otherwise. But I think either way, it's going to be a capacity crowd, a sellout. And I think we're going to win Sunday. I think we come out hot on, take the lead early. Crowd, only helps. It gets everybody going, and I just think we just ride a good start, ride the momentum, crowds into it, and pull off a big win.
And it's all matchup based too. I mean, at this point, the top four teams, I think at any point each one can beat each other. I think it's all matchup based at this point. I think that if it just happens to be the quote unquote unlucky against UCLA, well, we'll move on and maybe we match up better against USC and we can potentially steal one, and we still won here.
Well, I think, we talked about in some sports tiers of teams, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think in water polo, there used to be a big four, and we were kind of the start of the second tier. And I don't think it's the case anymore. I think there's a top five in whatever order you want to put it in. And it's Stanford, USC, Cal, UCLA, and Pacific. Mm-hmm. And I think of those 5 teams, any one of those can beat the other on any given afternoon or evening. And, I think it comes down to, drawing a 6-on-5, converting on a high percentage of 6-on-5s. Those games, the room for margin or error, so to speak, is so small on what can make you win or lose a game like that. And so, any one of those 5 teams can win. Like, Southern California is number 1, Pacific's 5. I wouldn't be shocked if we win. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd be shocked if anybody but those 5 teams won the national title. But the fact that Pacific's in that mix, whether we're 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 going into the NCAA tournament, or the Golden Coast Conference, to try to get the automatic spot, they're going to be there at the end of the season battling for the national title. I
think another shock would be, of course, if Pacific blows out USC, like 12-4 or something stupid like that, where you're just like, how did that happen? That would probably be the other shocking.
I think I'd be shocked either way. Whether it's USC won 12-4 or we won 12-4, I would be like,
how did that happen?
Yeah. I think that's the only way something can be shocking, is if one team won by a blowout over the other. A couple goal game either way.
If it's on the Pacific side, we have great things to talk about.
Well, of course we'd love that, but it would still be absolutely like, okay, like
head scratching.
Let's be careful we don't get over carried away, because that's probably not going to be
realistic. The reality is there's probably not going to be happening, but it would just be kind of like baffling in a lot of ways.
No, you know what?
Y'all just saw what happened, right?
Yeah, before Sunday they play at UC Santa Barbara. I mean, important they don't overlook that, but that should be a comfortable win. And then Sunday will be it'll be a battle. It'll be a brawl. It's a game that if you're not doing anything else you should be at. If you are busy, unfortunately, like you are, make sure you check it out.
Yep.
It's going to be a fun Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. That will definitely be something we talk about next week. Today, what we're going to talk about, Savannah Burns made the 100 club, and Creaky might be the next one, considering that, barring any injuries or anything like that. But after that, who takes the reins? Are they even on this current team? We'll discuss that and plenty more right here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there was a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there was a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations and those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for healthcare for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the live release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's recruits and shelters. The SPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now. And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
I had one more. I knew I had one more. I was saving it. Welcome back. No Mr. DJ JOD, but there is a Mr. Paul, and I'm JD Jeff Dominic, so I guess that kind of works out. But
between the two, we combined.
Yeah. We're both still taller.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got me, but still.
I was going to say, hold on, one of us a little more than the other.
Yeah, but still, it's Mark. We're not saying much. Come on, dude. Really? Come on. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in. To help Paul out, we wanted to go ahead and at least do one more segment.
Hold on. To help Paul, actually, it was your idea for the segment, and it's a good one.
I do all the planning for the show, apparently, but
well, you do.
I don't know why, but I just do. But because it's my baby.
You know why? Also, it's because otherwise it would be an hour and a half of field hockey and an hour and a half of volleyball.
Yeah, pretty much. So we don't want that. You know what, dude? I do apologize. I don't want to step on this segment too much. For one, it's becoming we're getting close to the end of the show. But two, this isn't really having anything to do with the area of sports, but there was another big trade in the NFL. A fairly good-sized trade.
Since we come on air?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Kelvin Benjamin, Panthers wide receiver.
Uh-huh.
Now a Bill. It's kind of a big trade. It's an interesting trade, nevertheless.
What did they get for him?
That's a good question. I just happened to see the headline. Bear with me. I apologize about the delay in the time.
So
the Carolina trade Bills in exchange for a 3rd and 7th round pick of 2018.
I guess that seems low. I wish my team would have gave up a 3rd round pick for Kelvin Benjamin. Him going to the Patriots, I think would be a lot more exciting. I think that's interesting. Is Carolina waving the flag on the season?
Very possible.
Because if you're a Carolina, it's like Miami trading Jay Ajayi.
That was obvious though.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, Miami's not going anywhere.
Nope.
I mean, they know
not
that.
This season.
But if Carolina's battling to win this season, you're not trading Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, I'm not a huge Kelvin Benjamin fan, but the fact that they're trading him to Buffalo, I think that's a great get for Buffalo. Buffalo needs another wide receiver to make things easier for Tyrod Taylor, but I think that's surprising. Like, if I'm a Carolina fan, I'm mad. Like, that means, like, to me, that signals we know we're not doing anything this season. And I don't know if Carolina is good enough to win the Super Bowl anyways, with or without Kelvin Benjamin, but I think that signals, that's kind of waving the white flag, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Josh Gordon, apparently he's going to go and try and meet with the NFL about reinstatement, and Ezekiel Elliott has filed an appeal on district court's ruling. I am so tired of talking about him.
Yeah, that subject, and especially fantasy and Alfred Morris or McFadden, and I'm tired of dealing with that. I just kind of like, you know what, I don't want any of them. Like, I don't have Elliott on any of my teams. Like,
mine was on an auto draft. That's the only reason.
A week or so ago, when the news broke, I tried to pick up McFadden and Morris in a few leagues, and then he filed it, and so he was back, and so I dropped McFadden, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm not dealing with it. So,
anyways,
back to Savannah Burns.
Sorry, yeah, this just happened to come across. I wanted to talk. I actually was going to try and talk about it last segment.
I mean, it's an interesting trade. There are some nice trades in the NFL. I mean, you always talked about the other two earlier, Garoppolo to the 49ers, which will be interesting for the Niners offense, and Ajayi to the Eagles. To the Eagles, the crowded backfield there, but you would think the carries he gets will be a little more successful, but, you know, a few interesting trades in the NFL.
Absolutely. So, Savannah Burns, once again, congratulations. She's become one of only 2 Pacific Tigers in field hockey history for the Pacific Tigers to go over 100 points. Congratulations there. Creaky Von Vyk came into the season at 57. She's now at 95. I was going to say 93, but 95, because I miscalculated on one of them, against Colgate. But anyway, so she's at 95. So barring any kind of injury, she'll be the 3rd. After that, are we looking at a team that probably, do we know who may be that next person to step up and be in the 100-point club? I mean, who do you is there anybody on this team right now, or do we have to kind of go, hey, let's see what we got recruit-wise coming in next season and stuff?
There is one other person on this team that I think will reach 100 points before her career is done, and that's Ash Rutherford.
Okay, I got you there.
And she's not a name that you think of because she's not a big goal scorer like Savannah.
No, but she's always behind the ball somewhere.
Yeah. She Rutherford, when she's done, she's going to hold all the assist records basically in Pacific history. I mean, she had 14 assists last season, 26 points total last season. Numbers are a little down this year. Right now, she's at 17 points. So she's at 43 points. Still will have 2 more years to go. So she could get to 100 before her time's done. Although, you know, not being a goal scorer makes it a little more difficult because you get 2 points for goals and only 1 for assists. But you know, as far as big time goal scorers, I'm sure there's, you know, there's 1 or 2 on their way that will probably, you know, we'll find out. You know, like we talked about some of the other sports, when you start winning, you get better and better recruits to come. And I'm sure Annie Smith's got a big-time forward or 2 on their way. Then, you know, you get a big-time goal scorer, and that's the people that are more likely to get to 100. I mean, you look at, you know, Savannah's now 108 points, and, you know, she only had 7 points her freshman season. I mean, she's kind of done it all in 3 seasons. And Creaky, you know, she's only going to get 3 seasons, but, you know, by the time she's done, she might be the all-time points leader at Pacific. I mean, I would think she'll probably get to 100 before the season's done, you know. So, but, you know, right now, Rutherford probably, outside of Creaky, probably the lone other person on the Tigers roster that could potentially get to 100 points.
I could definitely see that. Now, after that, I mean, basically, you're kind of going, it makes things a little interesting because, I mean, are you sitting there, I mean, you're not waving the white flag, is because we don't know who's coming in after this, because knowing Coach Smith and what he does is he kind of, in some ways, he puts the cards, holds them close to his chest until game day, in some ways. So it kind of makes you wonder, but he'll tell you, I mean, he'll kind of go, I'm excited about something, kind of thing. But he won't let you know what it is.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, he'll go, we've got somebody better coming than her. You're like, you'll see.
We'll tell you later. Yeah. Dude, come on! help me out.
I think I'll give you a sleeper. We'll go as far as potentially somebody on the Tigers team this year that could get to 100 points in her career is Gabby DeCock.
Okay.
I mean, she's only got 12 points this season, so it's not like she's on pace, like Rutherford. But I mean, mention Savannah only had 7 points her freshman season, and DeCock is she's hard to miss. The tiny goal scorer up front. She has 4 goals, 4 assists. She nearly had a goal against Syracuse, which would have put the Tigers ahead. And she, I think as the years progress, she'll get more and more opportunities up front. And I know Andy Smith's got some more forwards on their way, and forwards are going to be the ones most likely to get to 100 career points.
Right.
And so I think Gabby DeCock right now could potentially get there before her career is done. But as far as the Savannah or Creaky kind of level, I think that's still a player that's not yet on the roster.
What about like a Natabe Main? And the reason why I bring her up is that I see in some ways a resemblance of what Savannah has done. And when I talk about that, it's hard to compare two players. One that has done such great things to finish off her career, and one that's just basically beginning. But does she have the potential to alter the defense, but also work herself into a similar type role of what Savannah has done throughout her career?
As far as offensively, I don't think so. I think Savannah was more of a midfield / defender, so to speak. I mean, a lot of times,
Natabe is more defensive.
She's more
minded.
Looking. I think
she's only got 5 points this season.
I'm looking. She might have only have 4 shots on the season.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if that's what SH means on her stats. If that's all her shots all season long.
Yeah, it is, because there's a shot percentage.
Yeah. She hasn't come forward a lot except for on penalty corners when she's one of the stoppers.
But she's got 2 of them on goal, though.
Yeah, I mean, she'll get a shot off or so, but she doesn't quite. She more stays back, kind of the anchor center defensive back.
She scores, we go, what just happened?
She doesn't really, over the last couple of years, Burns was kind of in that center defender role, but she would have the freedom to more go with it, try to take it from the back and dribble all the way up, whereas Maine kind of more will lay it off to somebody in the midfield. But Maine's a key player over the next couple of years. I mean, she was the player, I believe, that had Andy Smith excited after last season.
I think so too.
And he goes, she's just as good, if not better, than Creaky. And when you hear that, you're thinking, oh, well, forward. They're like, oh, here comes more. Well, the stats, you can't compare the two because they play different positions.
Right,
but,
of course.
Maine all season long from game one, she's been an anchor of the defense back there, and so
I think she's, other than Burns, has been the only one that's probably been on the turf longer than. She's been on the turf longer than Creaky this season.
I mean,
we don't have a minute stats, but
I could, maybe before next week I'll hit up Coach Chris Fry. And I'm sure they keep track of minutes.
Of course.
And
they have to.
I would think Natabe leads the team in minutes played. I mean, there's games where I don't think she
between
comes
her and Savannah. Savannah did come off the
turf. Savannah will come off a few times, but I think Maine probably leads the team in minutes. And you know what? She also doesn't look like she gets tired out there.
Oh, she doesn't.
And I think it also, to be fair, I think it's also because Burns goes forward and back, whereas Maine doesn't push forward as much.
She hits about midfield and stops.
Yeah, so she can conserve her energy a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But I mean, so.
And I'm not saying she stops playing. I'm saying she hovers around the midfield, and that's about it.
Her amount of running is limited a little bit compared to Burns, but. They still got a lot more running. They got 3 games this weekend and then NCAA tournament time. And I'll be seeing them in Kentucky. I'm not giving up. I'm on record at the beginning of the year. I ain't giving up yet. I've still been working Dan Chapman. I've been working Chris Fry. Find fun and let me go to Kentucky. So I don't know if it happens, but I sure hope so.
You never know. What is it, the Joe Dirt? You can't have no in your heart and no in your mind or something of that nature. I don't know.
Hey,
anyway,
if we make it to the Final Four, I'll find a way to be there.
I'll find a way. Find a way. Thank you all very much for joining us here in the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Studios. This is 209 Sports. JD Jeff Tomic along with Paul Meiskens. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later.
Eric Eazy-E Wright, Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so that we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
Attention UOP veterans.